Hello there, welcome back to the Random Show episode number 73 with your host Agostino Zinga. This is 73 of the Random Show with your host Agostino Zinga. I hope you are doing well wherever this little live stream is coming at you live and direct, because it's a live stream and the hint isn't a bloody name, and I'm going to keep repeating it because I want to differentiate between all the other bits of content I put out there. It's a live stream. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. How am I? Pretty well, all things considered. Had a very productive and powerful Sunday. It is currently snowing in London, legit snowing. I wish I could show you a picture, but just imagine the snow. Close your eyes, imagine it. That's what's happening outside of my window right now. Loads of cars are driving by really fast because they don't care, because I live in a hood and people don't really give a crap about weather conditions, whether or not they can drive in them or not. I'm seeing people rush down the street with babies in their arms. I'm seeing people shouting and screaming on the way home. I'm even hearing the faint sound of trains slowly but surely drifting by in London, which usually doesn't happen, because when trains are around, people tend to kind of just stop doing anything reasonable or constructive. But hey, what can you do? What can you do? But apart from that, I've been fairly okay. It's been a bit of a bummer these last couple of days, I'm not going to lie, mostly because of what happened with bloody England. I'm still not over that. I'm really not. I have little moments where it kind of makes me shudder and I get really angry, and I'm thinking about it just now. Absolutely makes me furious, and I still can't get over it. I swear to God, I cannot. Big up Cheers Bill for the subscription. It's like, I think back to the game, and I think to what France basically displayed, and I think to how we were set up, and I think about just all the missed opportunities out there, man. We could have legitimately won that game so easily. This is not the most frightening or scary France side I've ever seen or come across in all my years watching football. No way, in any way, shape or form. We could have done it. We could have made it happen. But of course, our players, when we needed them the most, they ended up bottling it. Our manager and our coach is very reactive and not very progressive, and doesn't take initiative and waits until the very last moment until he makes a substitution in order to try and change the game and maybe influence the flipping outcome of it. And just, it turned into absolute horror show. It really, really did. And you can't go much further than Harry Kane, really. I know we can get into the minutiae of the substitutions and maybe the team selections and the timing of the subs and maybe the way we set up and whatnot. But for me personally, considering that we came back into that game with relative ease, I don't feel like France ever had a chokehold on the game. I don't feel like they asserted any kind of control. If anything, I felt like maybe just before they scored a goal, they did kind of have a period of maybe 7 minutes or so, maybe 8, where they took control of the game by the scruff of the neck. Maybe I could say that. But for the majority of the time, even when we went a goal behind from that fabulous Tchouaméni flipping shot from like, what, 25 yards outside the box, which kind of reminded me a little bit of Xabi Alonso, and he has that ability to just shoot really far from outside of the area and get the ball to go into the bottom corner, and that was obviously well executed from him. But apart from that, I can't really think of anything that happened in the game that would constitute for us to be in a position where we're losing. I generally do think we did enough to win that game, but clearly when the chances presented themselves, our players didn't take them. And maybe you could argue we didn't, create enough goal scoring opportunities. That I could definitely give you for sure. But I think overall, Harry Kane really let us down, man. He really let us down, because I could say, if we have like a really elite level goalkeeper, like a world class goalkeeper, does he let that Tchouaméni goal go in? Probably not. But then when you see it on the replay and you see how quickly, or maybe with a little bit of delay, what's his name, Jude Bellingham came to close down Tchouaméni, maybe that obstructed Pickford's view, and by the time the ball went through Bellingham's feet, or leg, sorry, it was too late, and he had to kind of adjust his feet and get to the other corner. And those shots, the reason why they're so powerful and so well done is usually you're trying to aim for the furthest corner. That's what you're trying to aim for, and you're not trying to have it low or high. You're not trying to have it high. You want to hit as low as possible, as fast as possible, and hope that the trajectory of the ball can get to the corner before the goalkeeper dives to his right. So maybe he wasn't at fault, but that penalty, man, especially the second penalty, was probably more crucial in our ability to get back into the game than the first one. I think we could have still scored to make it level if Harry Kane missed the first penalty, but that second penalty for sure deflated us, and it was such a crucial time for us all together that I feel like there's no other better place to start analysing the game than that. And for me, it's a current clarification that in general, especially if you're going to be an elite level football player nowadays, you kind of have to test yourself on the highest possible platform. You cannot just get away with being a quasi flat track bully in the English Premier League and then expecting, when it comes to the crunch moments for your national team, who a lot of people expect a lot from, which is maybe, you know, maybe the demands and expectations on the England side are a little bit unfair considering the fact that we haven't won anything since fucking 66, but still you would expect more, man. I expect more, I really do. If this guy's meant to be the world-class player that all the pundits in England flipping jack off, you got Gary Neville beforehand, before we signed Ronaldo, saying he would rather take Harry Kane and all this sort of nonsense, but he's clearly proven, even with Spurs, when they need him most, at that crunch period, the knockout stages, when you need your big strikers to play and to stand up and be counted for, he came wanting. And that was the most crucial penalty. But forget the first one. The first one is what it is to get us in the game. But that second one, with the whole entire country's responsibility and weight on your shoulders, he knows full well that there are hundreds and thousands of people in pubs all over the UK holding their beers with bated breath to see what he does when he rolls up to that penalty, and he ends up skying it. I think it's one thing if he gets on target and the goalkeeper saves it, but he ends up skying it over the bar. And some say that flipping ball is still traveling right now. It's still traveling. It's still going. This ball, it probably arrived to England before the flipping team did. That's how quickly and how fast that ball flipping went out of the stadium. It was absolutely shocking. One of the worst penalties I've ever seen in that kind of level. Because usually if someone's nervous, they have that meek penalty, that kind of, you know, they don't really go in either corner. It's sort of like a perfect goalkeeper's height. But this was hit with classic aggression, and it went out of the stadium flying, and probably ended up hitting a flipping Starlink satellite or some nonsense like that. But it was absolutely horrendous. And I saw that for myself, and I was like, you know what? This is the reason why Harry Kane should have always moved to a bigger club when he was at Spurs. He shouldn't have stayed at Spurs. That's the whole point. You can't be a player of his ilk and his quality and stay at a club like Spurs where you're not competing for any trophies, no league titles anytime soon, and then expect when you get on the big stage for your country to suddenly turn up. It's not going to happen. And quite clearly he proved it. And the really sad thing for him is that he's 29 years old. So the time for him to go to a big club and get that big money move and that big reputational, you know, trophy hunting type of move has been and gone. Where is he most likely going to go? He's definitely not going to go abroad. I don't think so. Not at this stage of his career. And you know how English players are with going abroad. They have a little bit of a fear of doing it. He's have to stay domestic. And I just don't see it ending up well for him, especially considering how competitive the flipping league is. It's just not going to end well. And I think in general, people will say, I think someone said here, oh, Daniel Levy don't want to sell him. Yeah, he don't want to sell him, but he has not made any real push to leave the club either. I don't think he's that ambitious. Apart from that Gary Neville interview where he was basically flirting with other clubs, he did absolutely nothing so far to push and to get himself in a position where he wants to play for a big club. We've seen what the full extent of trying to get yourself out of a club is. Ronaldo just did it recently. We've seen various variations of trying to get out of a club, whether it's refusing to go to training and all this other stuff. Like, it happens, quite honestly, it happens all the time, all the bloody time, and he clearly hasn't done it. And I don't know, man, it's just so annoying because I felt like the opportunity was there to win that game. I don't think France were that great. Obviously the Giroud goal was a bit of a body blow, especially with it being an own goal from flipping Harry Maguire. He's absolutely terrible, isn't he? Tell you what about that one. He hasn't really done his reputation any favors, especially with that being such a high profile game. I felt against Pride he was quite solid, but this game with the spamming of the long balls, the crossfield balls, I weren't really doing much, and him essentially scoring an own goal with Giroud, missing him. I don't think he was anywhere close near where the shot from Tchouaméni, which probably he shouldn't have been anyway. But in general, he always seemed to be a step slower than anybody else. And I didn't never really like that left-hand side anyway, maybe because I've got an agenda against Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire. But that left-hand side of defense for us was absolutely shocking. Shaw needed so much encouragement to go forward, and then when he did go forward, that's the thing that's so annoying about Luke Shaw. When he actually did end up attacking against France, he actually ended up creating a couple of good chances. I think he had a decent shot or cross or something. I forgot what occasion he had, but he did do some decent stuff when he got in that position. But as per usual, he loves to cross the ball in field and doesn't do anything much apart from that. But forget him, forget Harry Kane, forget Luke Shaw, forget Jordan Pickford, forget Jordan Henderson, who I thought was woeful. I thought Jude Bellingham didn't do that great either. You know, I thought possibly our best player was definitely Saka. Bukayo Saka was awesome. I don't know why he gets subbed off all the time. He was the one that was absolutely tormenting, you know, Hernandez to the point where he was so flustered that he would have pushed Mount in the back like he did in the box. Why does Saka keep getting flipping subbed off first? I don't understand it. It's so bloody annoying. And he was legitimately one of the people that was causing us all the problems. Maybe bringing him in field would have helped. Maybe having him play instead of where Foden was playing in that position, or something to jig it around, and then bringing on Grealish in extra time added on with what, like 8 minutes or something added. Are you insane? Grealish would have had so much joy in a game like that, where legitimately I think the referee kind of lost control of the game a little bit, and they were, you know, flying in with the challenges and whatnot. Bringing on a Grealish to carry the ball and basically invite challenges would have been the perfect remedy to kind of allow us to have an outlet to attack. But again, forget all that. Gareth Southgate for sure should get fired. I'm not sure what's happened to him so far. I've not heard anything in the wire that people saying that he's gonna get fired. He should leave off the back of that. He definitely shouldn't bloody stay at the club. Sorry, managing a national team. But again, Harry flipping Kane. They talk about him in this country like he's the Messiah, as if he's flipping Alan Shearer reincarnated. Well, I'll tell you what, Alan Shearer would have definitely not missed that chance. He would have missed it. I don't care. He would have never, ever missed it. I do not give a crap. So that's why I'm bloody annoyed and bloody fed up, and I just can't do it anymore, man. I honestly can't. It's so frustrating watching this country play football. I'm really over it. I swear to God, I'm over it. I really, really am. It's so annoying. It was a golden opportunity to do something right there in front of us, and we ended up squandering it so flipping stupidly. Because I feel like if we would have drew 2-2, we could have definitely won that game in real time. 100% sure we could have won that game within the 90 minutes. You know, maybe you would have forced flipping, what's his face, Gareth Southgate to have made that substitution a bit sooner. Oh, super chat, big up. Oh, we're gonna talk about that right now after this. Actually, yeah, I got no more to talk about anyway. Big up the Indian, that Indian dude. I appreciate the $10 super chat, mate. Thank you so much. But yeah, I'm pissed off. I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. I'm shaking right now. Right, I'm shaking. That's not nice. I got my hand on my chest. But yeah, England are so fucking annoying, man. Harry Kane, hang your head in fucking shame. You absolute cretin, mate. You think you're a top class flipping striker, and look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Look at this. Look at this guy. Look at this man. Look at this man. Top class striker. Nah, bruv, you're not a top class striker, man. What the hell are you doing? Honestly, that penalty was absolutely atrocious. To be fair, I've always hated his run up. I've always hated that fucking Johnny Wilkinson, I'm going to pump this ball as hard as possible run up anyway. He's got enough power in the way he shoots anyway. You don't need to add extra power onto it. It's so unnecessary. Just tap them into the corners like you do every single day and you're fine. But he loves doing that fucking, here we go. That fucking run up, and look what it did. It went, here you go. This ball went, here we fucking know, innit? Absolutely annoying, man. Absolutely hate it. I'm frustrated. I'm pissed off. I'm annoyed. I don't know. I just want a fucking Kinder Bueno or something, man. That's all I want. I want an ice lolly. That'll make me feel better. So to God, fucking hell, man. Oh yeah. But yeah, let's go on to the pièce de résistance. Big up that Indian dude for spoiling my run up and what I was about to talk about, but still, anyway, jokes. But yeah, UFC 282 happened. An absolutely interesting card, I'd say. I think on paper it was a far more controversial card than it needed to be. I think I myself thought it would just be a really fun card because the fights look really fun, but ended up being a little bit controversial. Now, I started off the card because I always watch the prelims, but unfortunately I did miss the first three So I missed the first three, so I can't really give you an opinion on the first three. I can tell you I was really gutted for Joaquin Buckley versus Chris Curtis. I really wanted Joaquin Buckley to win, but essentially Chris Curtis had a little bit more precision in him, even though Buckley was moving pretty well. His boxing and his striking was clearly improved. I thought that Chris Curtis had a bit more power in his punches, and obviously ended the way it did. I thought the Edmund Shabazian versus the Dashlan Lungimbula, which is funny because I'm sure this chap is from Congo. I'm sure he Lobaka Lingala, this guy here, right there, right, Dushlim Lingula, and I've legitimately don't think I've ever seen a guy more jacked than this man in the UFC. He was jacked to the point where one of his legs looked a little bit deformed, but it wasn't deformed; it was just muscle. You know when you're, you know when you don't know what actual muscle looks like because you'd never been ripped, and you start looking at a guy's leg, it's like, why does his leg look deformed? It's like, no, it's not deformed, you idiot. That's an absolute tree trunk. That's a ripped tree trunk. But unfortunately, all that tree trunk power didn't really matter because clearly Edmund Shabazian was the more well-rounded and far superior MMA, you know, MMA fighter, I guess you'd call it, right? In terms of being all-round, in terms of his striking, his grappling, his distance, everything was all where it needed to be. And I think, if anything, this is a weird example to say, especially somebody coming at it from like a casual point of view, but I honestly do think this Edmund Shabazian fight and this Dashlan guy was a little bit more important than people realize, because I think this was another clear example that the sport has moved on. You can't just be big and strong and win anymore. Like I said, I think on Twitter the other day that pace and power in UFC is gone, or to put it bluntly, being a scary big black guy doesn't do anything anymore. I think now people are still a bit scared of flipping Dagestanians and Russians and stuff, and maybe some Ukraine or whatever, Eastern Europeans in general, right? Especially if you're a Serb or whatnot, or if you're from, what's the other place? Yeah, maybe if you're a Serb, that maybe is a good example. But I think for the most part, there's no real fear factor in the big, scary, black athlete looking type of guy, because you might have the power, you might have the strength and all that malarkey, but if you don't have the skill, if you don't have the tools in your arsenal, such as good grappling, good takedown defense, good striking, you know, you're dangerous from your back, you're dangerous from the top, like all these things, you got good flipping, you know, measurements, you got good idea of that kind of, you know, where you are in the actual octagon and space and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't necessarily matter. And that's what you definitely saw with Edmund Shabazian. Once he got past the freakishly crazy look of flipping Daushin and how massive he is to look at, how intimidating it must be, I felt like he absolutely pieced him up and won really, really easily towards the end anyway. That flying knee was absolutely timed to perfection as well. I love a good flying knee, man. Just as the person's about to go down, even to throw, I think he was throwing maybe big overhand rights that he was trying to connect with, and he was swinging for the fences with his punches. Bit telegraphed because they were coming all the way from the bottom, but I think he went to go swing with his right, and he was always ducking his head down. And I guess Edmund kind of got the read on that, and as he's gotten his head down, he came in with a flying knee and then finished it with punches. It was really one of the best finishes of the night. I really did enjoy that fight. Jairzinho Rozenstruik and flipping Chris Dukakis. Whoa. Number one, I was pissed off that my guy Jairzinho is now on prelims. Like, he used to be fucking main fight card cut type of guy, but now he's on prelims, maybe because the roster's overinflated, or that's just the brutal nature of the UFC when you have a couple losses. But Jairzinho, Jesus Christos, he's got the weirdest body in the world, and as well, he kind of looks like fat strong, right? He kind of has tits but kind of doesn't, kind of has a belly but kind of doesn't. And usually those people are the most dangerous, especially even someone like a Chris Dukakis, who doesn't look like a UFC athlete in the slightest. But those guys, I think, are usually the most dangerous. That fight didn't last like, what, 30 seconds, if I say. I think it lasted 30 seconds. I legitimately went to the toilet, came back, and as they started and they were touching gloves, that's when it basically ended. He got hit a couple of times and Chris Dukakis basically saw stars, started spinning, went to the fence, and then by that time it was over, and Jairzinho absolutely rained blows on him, absolutely destroyed him and took him out. So that was pretty interesting to see. Jairzinho fights are always like that anyway, right? They either end really quickly or he gets absolutely bludgeoned all the way through. But that was pretty fun as well. This one was absolutely hilarious, because this kid is fucking 18, right? Raul Rosas Jr. versus Jay Perrin, who's not 18, he's a big man. I think he might be 30 or something. And I was thinking, watching a fight like UFC must be weird, because there's fighting and there's men. To get beaten up by an 18-year-old must be way different than if you're a footballer and you get beat, and you know, and this 18-year-old comes on, like how Wayne Rooney did against Arsenal that time, and he ends up scoring a hat-trick. it's probably way different if you're a fighter, because you probably take it more personally. It's probably a bit more of a shame, but I don't think Jay Perry has any shame to have in this fight, because this Raul Rosas Jr. kid might end up being a legit champion. He could end up being one of those undefeated, freakishly good champions, because he is as well-rounded as I've ever seen a debut in the UFC, for everything that's going on there, from his striking to his grappling, his wrestling, his takedowns. Like, so the submission was absolutely sweet. I enjoyed the entirety of that fight. I thought it was really good and showcased his skills in a really big way, in my opinion. So Jay Perry should have no shame in the fact that he lost to somebody who legitimately might go on to be a champion, winning, you know, fucking fighter in the end of time. But it will be quite cool if somehow down the line, if Jay Perry's still around, they have a round 2 of this fight. But he absolutely took him out and smoked him pretty quickly, and it was really one-sided, so allowed that. Then it comes to my favorite fighter. This is currently my favorite fighter in the UFC roster. Currently my favorite fighter, Ilia Topuria. To me personally, that mix of Spanish and Georgian as well is just the perfect mix if you want to get a really fiery, aggressive fighter to join the UFC, especially from Europe. My God, this kid is special. Really, really, really special. When it comes to striking, he's got everything. When it comes to boxing, he's got it. When it comes to grappling and jiu-jitsu, black belt, he has got all of it in buckets and spades. And he's not like those other guys, people saying in the UFC, oh yeah, he's got really good wrestling, he's a really high level jiu-jitsu guy, blah blah blah. But all they do is that they enjoy flipping striking, right? And I understand that, because maybe if you do jiu-jitsu for too long, you get bored of it, but you actually want to put on some good fun fights and actually, you know, excite the fans or whatnot, or have a highlight reel that is worthy of checking back sometime. I understand it. But I do like the guys who are well-rounded and who just choose to strike. Like, they say, look, if you want to go and do a grappling match, or you want to do some fucking jiu-jitsu on the floor, I can do that, and I'll have you choke, and I'll have you submitting very, very quickly. Or if you want to strike, we can strike, and I'll absolutely knock you out. So I love that. And the fact that he's actually got a chin. We saw that in his previous fight. I forgot who he fought. My memory kind of disturbs me, or leaves me, sorry. But I do remember him holding a couple of decent hooks and uppercuts, and he did actually wobble. Or no, he actually maybe wobbled off for one and came back. So clearly he's got the temperament and the ability to kind of withstand shots. So that was pretty cool to see. I felt a little bit sorry for Bryce Mitchell. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's another essentially well-rounded fighter, but again, the UFC is interesting in that way, where I feel like as soon as you face somebody who's maybe a level above you, suddenly you start to look human, or you start to look very average. His striking, Bryce Mitchell striking, facing Ilia Topuria, I felt was way worse because he was facing Ilia. Whereas everyone else he's faced prior, his striking hasn't looked that bad. His wrestling has looked really dominating. His top control and his pressure, everything is incredible to see, especially the pace that he keeps up. But then when you face somebody who's a level above, just an inch above you, suddenly you start to look human again. So that's the only thing I'm a bit sad about for Bryce Mitchell, because I really do enjoy him. I think he's a really good fighter. I think he brings a lot of interesting, you know, stuff to the card, or to fights in general, because he's so like grapply, wrestly, kind of dominant and whatnot. And he really enjoys mauling people and dragging them all over the octagon. But he stepped up in competition and he couldn't come close to Ilia, and Ilia obviously is in a position where he can legitimately maybe call his shots, and I'm not surprised if certain people are going to be avoiding him because he's a danger. Dricus du Plessis versus Darren Till. I'm gonna hold it and say that I legitimately thought this would have ended sooner than it ended, because they ended up going to the final round. Obviously Dricus ended up getting the win pretty early in the final round, but I was legitimately surprised that Darren Till was able to survive as long as he did in there. And in general, it probably goes to show you that, again, the step in level in quality goes to show that the UFC is definitely the league where all the best fighters are. Because for the most part, I think if Dricus du Plessis had anybody else in that position that he had Darren Till in, where he's kind of holding and trapping his arm, his right hand, and then he's got him against the cage and he's raining left hand hooks to his face, to a point where Darren Till's half his face was swollen up from taking all those blows, most people would have got knocked out. Most people would have maybe tapped from all the strikes. But the fact that Darren Till was able to survive and bear through that entire first round, maybe it's because it's Darren Till. And because it's Darren Till, the referee didn't want to call it straight away, knowing his record and what he's gone for. I'm not sure that's the thing, but who knows, that might be an actual situation. You might have saw Darren Till moping around in the change room and whatnot. But I was generally surprised that he was able to withstand himself for that long. The only thing for me that was concerning watching the fight, especially Darren Till, was that prior to him coming into the octagon, when he was in the changing room or whatnot, he looked really nervous. like a deer caught in headlight nervous. Obviously I noticed his eye, he's got that issue with his eye where it looks like a bit of a sty, but he looked really scared in the flipping change. I know he wasn't scared, but he had the look of somebody else a bit scared and a bit worried. Then when he came out and he started fighting, he kind of looked quite confident. But then as soon as he got into the grappling exchanges, I was like, what the hell has he been doing with Khamzat Chimaev? What do they spend time doing? This whole entire time that they've built up this incredible friendship and brotherhood and connection, and he goes to his gym, they stay at each other's houses, I'll probably assume, because they go that far, right? Or they sleep in the gym together, all this sort of stuff. What the hell happened? Like, what was he actually practicing? Was he just Khamzat Chimaev's like test dummy or something? Were they actually getting down? Like, what were they legitimately doing together? I don't understand it, because I saw no discernible difference in Darren Till's flipping takedown defense. Not even his or actual wrestling or grappling himself. I thought his takedown defense was absolutely terrible for the most part. Without his strength and without him just trying to bully his way to standing up, he didn't exactly strike me as somebody that had a lot of, you know, training with somebody who's clearly a high level wrestler or grappler like Khamzat Chimaev. So that was really odd to see, in my opinion. I thought Dricus Du Plessis looked pretty shit. Even though I'm a big fan of his, and I think that he reminds me a lot of GSP, maybe because of the way he walks, he's got that knock knee thing, but he gassed out really quickly. But obviously he's very dangerous in terms of being another well-rounded fighter who's able to, even when he's tired and his gas tank is empty, he still have the option, if he wants to get his arm behind your neck and obviously choke you out. So that's obviously cool to see. But I was surprised with how ordinary he did look in there, legitimately ordinary. And the fact that he couldn't get Darren Till out there in the first round and knock him out maybe does speak to the fact that maybe his power is a little bit overrated. It's not as maybe, you know, lights out as I would expect it to be, but still, you know, decent enough win for him. For Darren Till, if that was me, this is a bit harsh to say, even though he's a fellow countryman, I would retire. I think it's finished for him. He doesn't look like he has it anymore. He's kind of giving me vibes of that guy who's a mixed race guy before he got cut by the UFC. You could just tell in his eyes he wasn't there anymore. He was just turning up for the check. Even Donald Cerrone kind of had the similar sort of look towards the end of his career. It's sad because Darren Till's still so young and obviously has still more to give. But I just think after having those defeats that he's had, the injuries that he's had, and maybe all the life issues outside the octagon, he's probably not in the greatest space possible now to actually try to compete at the highest level, because, you know, someone like a Darren Till, he's not going to be in the UFC just to be a number and to just put on fun fights. He wants to win a belt. He wants to be champion one day or a contender, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. He's just not on that level, especially his grappling is just not that great. His striking isn't even that amazing to really give him a shot in that kind of way. So it's kind of a bit peak for him, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. Another interesting fight, one of my fun ones, was this one. Santiago Posibon versus Alex Morono. Holy smokes. Santiago Posibon was legitimately on the cusp of losing that fight, and in the final round he pulls out an absolutely like, I don't know, like a flipping punch from the gods. That right overhand, that probably, there's a lot of these kind of looping big right overhands actually in this fight. Am I mistaken? It was a right? I think it was a right hand that hit fucking Moreno in the face, and it legitimately looked like it broke Moreno's jaw, but I don't think it did. It just hurt him a lot, because I've never seen someone's face like clench. Like his face clenched up immediately as he got punched. Like that must have hurt so bad. And then obviously he rained the blows and kind of finished the fight. But one incredible turnaround, because Alex Morono was definitely winning that. And then this fight. We have to talk about this fight. We have to talk about Paddy Pimblett versus Gerald Gordon. Oh my God. As someone said in the chat, this might be one of the saddest stories to see in real time, because Paddy Pimblett has turned everybody against him in the UFC, or mostly UFC fan base, for what he did and what he said about Ariel and just how he's been acting, and him buddying up to obviously Dana White and thinking he's his best friend and everything else in between. He has definitely rubbed people up the wrong way, maybe even with some of his kind of spicier comments that he's basically lobbed towards flipping Ilia Topuria. But I feel like this is probably the worst thing that could have happened to his career, in my opinion. To get a fighter like a Gerald Gordon, who isn't the greatest himself, but to have somebody like that offered up as a sacrificial lamb, and for the sacrificial lamb to actually win, because let's be honest, he won. I think if we're being somewhat if we're being somewhat charitable, we could say maybe Paddy Pimblett maybe won one round, but I still disagree with that. He maybe won half of a round, but I don't think he won a single round, not on my scorecard. I know the UFC scores differently, but in my kind of casual scratching my balls whilst I'm drinking a beer, watching this UFC late at night scorecard, he didn't win a single round for me. And I feel like the UFC did him a real disservice by giving him this victory on the plate, because it does him no favors. Because what it effectively does for me is that it shows me that someone like a Jared Gordon, who I don't think is that great, was able to basically do what he wanted to Paddy, especially him being smaller in terms of size and stature, and he basically was able to run Paddy around the cage how you want him to run around the cage for, I think, the majority of that match. So if you're anyone who wants to face Paddy, who is a prospective fighter, you'll probably have a lot of encouragement, because you're saying, hey, if I can just improve slightly on what Jared Gordon did, I can possibly get this guy out of here. I can probably submit him. I can probably win, or whatever it may be. But for me personally, it definitely has done more negative to his flipping name than it definitely done positives, because I don't understand it. I watched that fight, the judging, I don't really get what they were looking at. Maybe there's a whole different criteria to judge fights and I'm constantly aware of, especially with me being just a regular schmegular fan, but I do not understand it in the slightest how Paddy could have won that fight. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And like I said, it does him such a disservice. Now people are going to look at him like essentially how they used to look at what's his face, the other guy with the colourful hair, until he started fighting actual good people. But essentially him buddying up to flipping Dana White has kind of paid off for him in the long run, because I don't think he gets that result if he's just the Paddy from before. The Paddy that gets Dana White on his podcast and starts trashing Ariel suddenly then gets a very contentious victory in his favor, which I don't understand in the slightest. It was legitimately one of the biggest robberies I've seen this year, hands down. And I know a lot of people in the UFC will say, oh, don't ever let it get to the judges. You should always try and get your guy out of there. The UFC only say that selfishly, because obviously for the UFC, it serves them greater to have a highlight reel of you, or to put you in a montage or whatever it may be of you knocking out people, than submitting them. They're not in the business of submissions. They don't care. So clearly they want you to knock people out because it serves their bottom line better. But it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't have to go into the octagon and try and take somebody's head off every time you fight just so you can win. And because you know what I mean? Because you're afraid of how the judges might score the card. That's absolutely crazy in my opinion. And clearly that's an issue that definitely needs to be addressed. The other issue that needs to be addressed, I feel like, is definitely this. Flipping Dana White's comments afterwards, which I think are horrendous and definitely speak to the fact that the UFC, I feel like, would be in a far better place as a business and as an organization once Dana White leaves his position as the face of the UFC. He's a legitimate negative on the sport. How he makes it all personal, how there's always grievances that he kind of airs out, favoritism, all these really gross things that shouldn't be going on in sport, he does. And it's really, really bad. This is a headline courtesy of Bloody Elbow. It says, terrible game plan. Dana White bruises Jared Gordon after controversial loss to Paddy Pimblett, UFC 282. And this is what he said in the article, or this is what he said after the fight. He said, Jared Gordon had a terrible game plan against Paddy. He shouldn't have coasted through the third round thinking he was up on the scorecards. So the quote unquote owner, he's not really, or the face of the organization that you're fighting for, is telling you that you have to get your flipping fire out of the octagon in order for you to win. You can't depend on the judges who are there to judge the scorecard in case it doesn't go to knockout so they can ascertain who won. You can't judge them. You can't trust them, sorry. So if we can't trust them, why are we using them then? Do you know what I mean? What the hell is going on here? Safe to say the controversial ending won't hurt opponent's popular stock. But yeah, it definitely will hurt his reputation, I feel like, because I don't feel like Paddy Pimblett has got any chance against anybody else in the lightweight division, because that's who he's facing, right? It's mostly lightweight. I don't think it's featherweight. It's mostly light, if I'm not mistaken. That's where thingamajiggy's that's where what's his face, Paddy, can fight. And I'm guessing if he wants to, he could maybe go up or maybe go down to featherweight. I doubt it, but anyway, let's say he's lightweight. That's where he basically fights for the most part, right? He doesn't stand a chance with any person here. Obviously he doesn't stand a chance with fucking Islam, Charles Oliveira, who gets smoked by, Dustin Poirier, who gets smoked by, Justin Gaethje smoked, Beneil Dariush. Just give him Beneil Dariush if you want to. It's unfair, because he definitely deserves maybe higher opposition and maybe a title shot. But if you really want to test his mettle and see where he's at, give him Beneil Dariush. He'll get smoked. Michael Chandler will definitely smoke Paddy Pimblett, in my opinion. Rafa Faiz Faiz, sorry, definitely will smoke him. Rafa dos Anjos, this version now, of course. Mateus Gamera, I'm not really too familiar with him. Armen Tuscurian, for sure he would smoke him. Jalen Turner, for sure. Dan Hooker would give Paddy Pimblett a real barnstormer fight. Not sure how that would go, to be honest, but I think he would give him a real barnstormer. Damir Ismagulov, I'm not really too familiar with him. Renato Moicano, if I'm not mistaken, he was called Cowboy too, right? Renato. I think he would give Paddy a real good test. Also, he might actually catch him in a submission. Conor McGregor and then Tony Ferguson, who I think Paddy will probably beat. It's probably Tony Ferguson in this entire division. Conor, I don't think even he'd beat personally. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but the way I saw Paddy defending punches with his chin, having his chin up in the air like he was fighting out in the street, and having his coaches outside of the octagon telling him to tuck his chin in, like telling him to guard his, like, put his hands up and shit, like textbook shit that you get taught if you go to your first Muay Thai class. I don't necessarily think he's got a standard chance. So number one, he ruined reputation with the fans of how he attacked Ariel and basically came across like a bit of a bully. Then number two, he then ends up cozying up with Dana White, who most UFC fans hate because of how he's treated fighters. And then number three, he goes and allegedly wins this fight that he had with Jared Gordon, even though I think on my scorecard he lost every single round. So this probably ends up doing him far more worse than he actually ever imagined, man. What an absolute shock of a decision. If that's me and I'm Paddy, I'm telling him, hey, can you please wait to do all that fixing later? Like, don't do it now when I'm just getting started. Like, just do that later. I know maybe people want the momentum of being undefeated, but in actuality, it doesn't actually matter if you are undefeated or not. It's whether or not you're an actual good fighter, whether or not you can put on fun and interesting fights, whether or not you can challenge for the belt. The fact that you lost a couple of times shouldn't really matter, but these guys are a little bit different when it comes to all that sort of stuff, man. But what can you do? What can you bloody do? Moving on from that one, quickly want to talk about, obviously, the BRITNEY GRINER stuff. I know most of you are obviously aware. She has finally landed back home in the USA, and I'm absolutely happy for her, I got to admit. I know there's a lot of politics around it, a lot of consent, different voices saying different things as to why they have grievances, as to why the UFC decided to swap her for that arms dealer. But for the most part, I'm just happy for her as a person, because to go to Russia in general, the story is always crushing, right? Because it's a kind of cautionary tale in a little bit, but it's also just one of those unfortunate circumstances where, yeah, I see that. Okay. Pete Davidson, I saw people saying that online, but it's one of the unfortunate circumstances where you go to Russia in the off season to make extra money because your league at home doesn't pay enough because people don't watch it. It's not an appealing enough product to, command a high salary from, because there's not enough brands and sponsors and all that sort of stuff that want to align with it, because no one actually watches it. Not any women actually watch it. That's how really weird it is, which is, I've never really actually got why women don't watch women's sports for the most part. There's a lot of dudes watching women's sports, but not a lot of women watching women's sports, which is odd. I don't know why, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So she goes there to earn some extra money in the off season, inadvertently or purposely puts a flipping vape cartridge of weed in her bag, less than 1 gram, and that ends up, resulting in her going to prison in Russia for 9 years. That's the thing that people need to remember. It wasn't like she was held in detention pending a trial all this time. She was legitimately serving jail time for 9 years for the crime of carrying a weed cartridge to flipping Russia in the middle of what Russia's doing now in Ukraine. She was essentially used a little bit like a political pawn, not a little bit, definitely a political pawn, obviously to further whatever else that they were doing over there. So that's the crazy part of it. I just feel like she was caught in a crossfire, definitely a wrong place, wrong time sort of situation, and she had to suffer for it. So I'm just happy she's back as a person. As a fucking person, I'm happy she's back. I just hope now that she's back, got to spend time with her wife and do Christmas stuff, I just hope she doesn't go in her political soapbox and start telling us about how we should be living our lives and talking about social justice and whatnot. You got caught in a sticky situation. It's unfortunate these things happen like that, but now you're home. Just focus on your career and what you're doing. Don't then now become suddenly some sort of activist person. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm really, really hoping it doesn't happen. And then the other bit was obviously really funny, was this Victor Boot guy who she was swapped with, right, in the prison swap, who legitimately looks like a villain from that movie Face Off, right? That's who he basically looks like, or any other nondescript villain you've seen ever in your life in the history. And the funny thing about him, with him being an arms dealer, and what's his name? This Viking of Doom, of Death or something, or Sergeant of Death, whatever, of Doom. The funny thing about it is that if you've read any books on Russia, which I've read quite a few, not joking, I've only read one, but I've read one book on Russia, especially on the oligarchs. And the funny thing about it that I think is really interesting when it comes to arms dealers is that, are you aware that some of these arms dealers aren't like, inherently evil people, right? They're not like these maniacal kind of like Marvel villains or whatnot. They're just regular oligarchs who essentially get entrapped, whether they're doing some unsolicited stuff outside of their marriage, whether or not they're, they're closeted homosexuals, whatever it may be, they get entrapped in some way. And then basically what is being alleged is that the Russian government then puts them in a position saying, hey, you're a high flying businessman. You're able to go to all these different places, on the strength of the amount of business you do, despite having a Russian passport. We're going to use the fact that you've got this ability to travel and kind of go through borders and whatnot, and basically tax onto you the guns and the arms that we want you to get to certain people's hands. And obviously it also gives them a little bit of detachment for the situation. They can send these oligarchs out there to go and basically sell all their gears and what they want, and they can basically hide in the shadows. So a lot of these people aren't as malevolent as you'd think they are. They're just regular folks who get caught up in the lifestyle, or who can just get caught up and entrapped in the first place, and then they're put in a position where they basically have to deal arms in order to basically keep their family safe and stuff. So it's a little bit crazy when it comes to this sort of stuff. So all in all, I think it's great. I think everybody being found, suddenly aware of who Victor Bout was is awesome. I watched a documentary on him ages ago. I think it may have came out like 2017 or 16 or something. It's pretty good. I forgot the actual premise of it altogether because it's such a long time ago. But I definitely recommend you check out a documentary about him and everything else concerned with that. But personally, I'm just happy freaking Brittney Griner's back, mate. I'm just happy she's back. So big up Brittney Griner. Hopefully you're okay. I saw that they cut her off her braids. They were saying they cut off because it was too cold and they were getting locked up. It doesn't matter how they cut off or why. The fact that she's back home is the most important thing. Hair grows back. I mean, you don't get time back though. So now she's got time to spend with her family before Christmas. It must be the best Christmas present ever. So definitely big up Brittney Griner and big up Victor Bout as well for wishing her good luck, right? That's what it says here. Yeah, he wished her good luck in the prison swap. What it says here, the statement here, he says, Victor Bout, I wished her good luck. She even extended her and Bout, who's nicknamed the Merchant of Death, told Russia State TV RT network just Saturday, our tradition is to wish everybody good and luck and happiness. Asked if Griner engaged with him during the hike. Yes, she did, and I felt she was very positive towards me. So they had a bit of a flirt, they shared some nice pleasantries, and they went on their way. So big up Brittney Griner and big up everybody else. And also big up the chat. I've seen some people saying hi. Who's saying hi in the chat? Big up the chat. Big up Koila, big up Ray Chan, join, big up TV Huck, big up Uche as per usual, big up CX Daddy. What's that? Cody Daniel, I think your name is, right? They legit left the US Marine locked up in Russia to suffer while Brittney gets to go home. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely unfortunate, but I think the PR around it was definitely bad for this Biden administration. So they had to get her out first. Unfortunately, they couldn't get her out with the other guy. But I think this was always going to happen, to be honest. It was always going to end this way, especially if you believe the story, which I don't actually believe. I'm not sure if you believe it. Have you guys heard that story? That there's a story going around. I think Nick Fuentes must have shared it. I think it must have been him, where the story is that Ye was going to meet with Putin very soon, and he was going to try and arrange the release of Brittney Griner, and he had some assurances that that was going to happen, and obviously he's going to use that as a big sort of tool to further his political campaign and his run for office, or as he says, his walk to office for 2024. So maybe the Biden administration heard that through the grapevine. We're like, no, we can't give this anti-Semitic psycho any sort of props or any easy wins. We have to get her out first. And they got her out first. I think that's how the story goes. I'm not too sure if that's true or not, but that's the story that people are saying. But big up that Marine. Hopefully he ends up getting out sooner rather than later. But to be fair, I don't think he was ever going to get out together with Brittney Griner. I think regardless of her just being a woman, a black woman at that, and the way that she got locked up in the midst of everything that was going on, the fact that people had kind of forgotten about her in the news cycle, they weren't really talking about it too often. I think they had to get her out and show that they have some connections or some really good relationships still within the Russian government that can maybe make that stuff work. I think so personally. I think they had to do it, but unfortunately they couldn't get them out together. So it is what it is, and I guess. But hopefully that Marine gets out very, very soon. Moving on with that one, I quickly want to touch upon this because I feel like this is kind of interesting, because I feel like nowadays people need to be a little bit honest with what they want to do, because I don't think it is that much of an issue, to be honest, because I think a lot of media, entertainment, artist type people, their fan base accepts them, not accepts them for what they are. Like however they present themselves online, most fans who follow these artists, these actors, these musicians, whatever they may be, they accept them. I can't say that word properly. They accept them for exactly who they are. And I feel like Cardi B is the prime example of it. And I found this headline really interesting. So this headline says as follows: Cardi B cites anxiety as a reason for her sophomore album delay. And a lot of people have been speculating why she hasn't put out a new album, why hasn't she gone on a full tour, and a lot of people were saying that, you know, she maybe just has lost the little spark that she once had for music, and now it's come out that she said she's actually anxious. She's suffering from some level of anxiety and doesn't want to put out music, which I think is maybe the best thing to do in this situation. So it goes as follows: Cardi B took to her social media to update her fans regarding her sophomore album, detailing the state of her mental health. The Bronx rapper explained that while she was has recorded an abundance of music for a project, the only thing stopping her from dropping is anxiety. She says, like, I do have anxiety. Like, I've been having lots of anxiety because I know right after I dropped the album, I have to go on tour and I have the bad separation anxiety from my kids. And when it comes to music, I feel like, you know, dead ass. I feeling like I could be liking anything. I feel like I got so many songs. I don't like to nothing. Like nothing is good enough. Dead ass. I got so much fucking money saved up. Dead ass. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Fuck. Anyway. But I don't know. Anyway, my bad Latina accent aside, right? I sound like a transitioning Latina who got dumped in a prison for 6 months, and that's where I picked up my accent from, right? That's what I sound like. I got dumped in a flipping in a New York jail somewhere, and that's where I got that flipping horrible accent from. But I'm still transitioning, clearly. Anyway, so what I think about this whole situation is that I think personally, a lot of Cardi B fans don't mind if she doesn't do music again. I think they're just fans of her as a person. They follow social media. They love to see her talk. They love to see her twerk. Love to see her show out with her kids, buy her kids Rolexes, have fancy clothes on, do fly shit. I don't think they legitimately care. They really, really don't care about her music. And I feel like, in my opinion, similar to a fighter that goes in the octagon when they're not really on it, I feel like if you put out music when your heart's not really in it and it gets a bad reception, then you're definitely going to feel it a lot more than you would have when you're really in it and you're understanding of how the business is. Because I feel like you're way more sensitive now. And considering how bad I feel like she's regarded amongst some hip-hop fans, right? There's this weird beef that her and Nicki Minaj have where essentially it splits the entire hip-hop fan base, where you're either team Nicki or team Cardi. You can't really be in the middle for the most part because too much virtual e-blood has been spilt. But I feel like now, with her bad reputation somewhat online, with the music so far she put out not being the greatest, with all this new people coming up, like Glorilla's doing good things, you know, Doja Cat's doing amazing stuff, whatever it may be, there's just too much competition out there. And I feel like maybe the time has gone and she hasn't been in the ring or hasn't been in the gym for a while, so she's probably going to be way off it. And the final point of this whole thing, I don't think she ever came into it to do music anyway. I think the whole point of her doing what she's doing now was just a cash grab. She came into it via what? Love and hip hop. She got famous off there, became like somebody's, you know, everyone kind of, you know, what was it? Everyone kind of, you know, got connected to her in that way because they liked her personality and how real she was, and she came across very genuine, blah blah blah. And the music kind of fell into her lap because, you know, when you're a celebrity and you gain a particular level of fame, people want to ascribe or have you standing in next to anything to try and make work. They try to make the music work, got her a bunch of writers, and it kind of clearly worked out to the point where she put out a couple of good songs, a really decent first album. I thought, what was it called again? I don't know, one with the black and white floors. That was great, but I don't think she has anything more in her. Clearly not. She's not that great musically. She's not talented or gifted in any way, shape, or form. So maybe the anxiety is a good warning sign for you to just stop. So I feel like she just relax. Yeah, so invasion of privacy. So she should maybe just stop and chill. Just relax. Like, it's okay to stop. Like, you got your cash grab, you made your money, just allow it, leave it. There's no need. Like, this is kind of similar, bit of a stretch, but it's a little bit similar to fucking the whole Brendan Schaub thing. Maybe if Joe Rogan does give you the flipping ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, like he always like to say as an analogy, maybe you just take it and use it to set up an incredibly popular podcast, tour and do some live podcast shows, and just leave the comedy for the comedians. Forget all that shit. You don't need to grab every single piece of money on the table. Maybe just stopping at the podcast thing would have been a great way to go about things, and he would have been still a redact, but at least you wouldn't have been this stand-up comedy redact. And same with Cardi B. If you try and replicate the success of Invasion of Privacy, you might legitimately end up, you know, making yourself look worse, because people are going to compare you to that great body of work, which is essentially your life's work, your magnus opus, and then suddenly you come out of a second album and it's absolutely tridash. People are going to destroy you, especially if the sales are bad, because this society we live in at the moment, especially in this time, people fucking obsess about first week sales as an indication of how bad music is, which is really untrue, because other genres sell far less than hip-hop. Doesn't mean the music is shit. But if she comes out and sells anything less than 100,000, anything less than 200,000, 300 to some people's eyes, people are going to see it as a flop. If there's not one single on there by herself that smashes it and goes high in the charts, people are going to think it's a flop. So why do it? Just leave it alone. You know, enjoy your flipping riches, show your ass, do your twerking, show your jewels, show your cute kids and your family, hang out, go to parties, drink fucking tequila on live stream and have like 10,000 people watching you. What's so bad about that life? I really don't understand. What is so bad? I understand she's got contracts, she's got obligations, but I don't see the problem in just retiring and saying, you know what, I put out a great album, I'm going to put out some singles here or there, but I'm not in the process of making any sort of album anytime soon, any way, shape or form. She could basically do an Andre 3000, where she just pops up and does some tracks here and there and then disappears. I'm not comparing her to Andre 3000, don't worry, but, or maybe like an Ashanti, where you're not Ashanti, sorry, where you're not, you know, actively trying to be, you know, out there trying to flipping hustle and do the damn thing. Maybe, I don't know, who knows? But regardless, I think sometimes giving up is a good thing. That's basically my message of the day. Please give up. It's okay if you don't, you know what I mean? If you don't make another album, it's not that big of a deal. And honestly, think about it. I thought about it the other day, right? She's going to have to come out. Forget Nicki Minaj. Forget her beef with Nicki Minaj. She's going to have to come out and legitimately try and compete with fucking Doja Cat. Imagine you're Cardi B and you have 3 or 4, I don't know how many kids she's got, maybe 3, maybe 2, who knows, but she's got kids with an S, plural, right? Imagine having to come out and having to compete with Doja Cat as an artist, like putting on shows, doing photo shoots, interviews, doing that cute girl Instagram live thing where you're dancing and singing to songs all the time, wearing cute outfits, you know, working out a bunch, going to fashion shows. Like, fashion show thing is brutal. You're having to fly over there for 4 days and go to 6 shows in a day, different outfits, go and do press and media. Your kids are not around, your guy's not around. If you leave, and you know, Offset has shown, you know, through fucking various examples, if you leave Offset alone for too long, he might find himself in some nyash. Do you know what I mean? You want to keep an eye on him as well. Like, it's a bit tough, man. I understand it. It's not easy. I wouldn't want to compete with Doja Cat either, mate. Like, she's really good and she seems to enjoy being a celebrity. Like, she seems to enjoy the attention, enjoy the hustling, all of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, she seems to really love being a musician, an artist nowadays, whereas Cardi maybe through her past experience maybe doesn't. But hey, man, hey, sometimes giving up is good, babes. Sometimes giving up is good. Anyway, moving on. We have to talk about the pièce de résistance, and we're an hour in. I just want to touch on it so the people who are checking out the show don't think I'm being a honey dick. So most of you are aware that Tony Hinchcliffe was recently on Steve-O's podcast, right? Steve-O Wild Ride, and they were talking about all things concerning stand-up comedy and all that sort of good stuff. I'm sure most of you are aware of that kind of thing. Whenever Tony Hinchcliffe gets on these sort of shows, it usually devolves into a topic around, you know, stand-up and all that sort of stuff, and it gets a little bit boring, which is why I usually kind of stay away from any of his interviews, because they get very inside baseball, very minutiae and all that sort of stuff. I'm not really a big fan of it. Hey yo, big up Al Gore Rhythm, big up. I'm not really a fan of all that sort of stuff, so I kind of avoid them. But this little clip that's gone viral, it was shared all over social, it was shared on the subreddit, someone shared it on my Discord, it's gone absolutely flipping nuclear, was this wild exchange between between Hinchcliffe and Steve-O, where they essentially really rag on and giggle at flipping Brendan Schaub and his special, the Gringo Papi. I'm going to play it now because I think it's absolutely hilarious. And then I'm going to play the full clip for you from the YouTube that gives you a bit of context as to what they was talking about, because I really want to get an understanding of what's going on. I saw the clip, but I really want to get more context to it. So let's play the actual little clip where they're laughing at Brendan, and then I'll play the full clip to get the context. But this is really funny, and also, oddly enough, without being hyperbolic, this is a little bit, no, without any hyperbole, not being hyperbolic, Jesus, too much Brendanism. Without too much hyperbole, this is definitely one of those turning points, because I don't think anybody else in these positions that they're in Tony Hinchcliffe and Steve-O, would have said this if Brendan's stock within the JRE extended universe had not dwindled. Because I feel like it has dwindled somewhat, which is why all these comedians are feeling comfortable to say what they say. My theory goes that Kalila and Annie are the ones who sacrificed themselves, and the other girl, Liza Schlesinger, the little one, I think it's Eliza, I forgot her name. All those three girls are the ones who sacrifice themselves in order to allow all these men to have the bravery to come out and say something. Because before Kalila, Annie, and the other short girl said something about Brendan, no one was brave enough to say it in public. No one said it. No, yeah, Esther. That's it. Esther Pavinsky. Sorry, not Eliza. Fucking hell. I get all these little white girls mixed up. Esther, those were the heroines. They're the brave ones. They're the ones that deserve the prize. Because before they said anything, no one actually said anything. They all kind of were whispering things and not mentioning names and writing stuff on paper like little girls, ironically enough. But when they first flipping, what you think called? When they put themselves out there, they made it known. You know what I mean by other short girl. There's another one who's like a Christian who was going out with that comedian who does a podcast with Mark Norman. She's another short one. What's her name? There's Esther, and there's the other one. Oh, there's Esther and the other one. I forgot her name. She's the one that used to go out with that comedian who does a show with Mark Norman. I don't think they're still going out. I think she's like a Christian girl or something as well. I remember her being on fucking Your Mum's House and being really freaked out by the clips they played her, to the point where I don't think she came back. She was very, very uncomfortable with everything around her. I think she's a clean comic too, and she sells a bunch of tickets. She's very popular. I'm not really a fan of the comedy because it's a little bit too like, aha, I'm white and happy. Yeah, Sam Ariel. Yeah, he used to go out with some girl. What's her name? Oh, I forgot her name. I really did forget her name. Wish I remember it. But anyway, doesn't matter. Let's play the clip. This is them. That's the name. Taylor Tomlinson. That's it. Uche's got it. Taylor Tomlinson. That's the one. So I keep mixing up Esther Pavinsky. Is it Esther Pavinsky? Right? Is that her name? Esther something? Is it, or am I confusing the name? Is it Esther Pavinsky? Is it Esther Pavinsky? Doesn't matter. Why are we fucking going back and forward around these two very successful short white ladies? It doesn't matter. They're still mashing it. Big up to all of them. That's all that matters. Anyway, this is the clip featuring Steve-O and Tony Hinchcliffe giggling and laughing at Brendan Schaub's demise, which is absolutely hilarious to see. And then I'll play the other clip that gives a bit more context. Let's go. Oh, I got to put that thing on, didn't I? See, I didn't put my shit on. Absolute horror show.
Really easy. No airports.
You mean the Arlington where Gringo Papi was filmed?
Wait, is that where that was filmed?
Is it?
The Dallas Improv, Arlington?
I think so, yeah.
That's where Gringo Papi was filmed.
Oh, no.
Dude, tough act to follow.
Pressure's on.
Oh, man. How do you know that? How do you know that was filmed there?
I was fascinated by the entire I even know where the construction paper came from.
Oh my god.
I even know who cut it out.
Oh my god, it's so funny. Yeah, we all are. We're all very fascinated about it.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, I'm particularly close to that because of the known for other things coming into stand-up, like first special on Showtime, you know, and then like putting out the second special on you know, on your own.
35 minutes.
25.
Was it really? 25. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. It's like death by 1,000 self-inflicted paper cuts or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. but yeah, like so I was particularly, you know, 'cause it's like and I don't know, I care a lot. You know?
Yeah.
You still feel that way though, because people are always saying like,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, hey, you know
Tom
what,
gave
like,
you, Tony gave you.
Yo, that legitimately might be one of the most funniest clips I've seen in a while. I love Steve-O's face throughout the entire process, especially towards the end. He's obviously really smiley and laughy and enjoying the moment of him telling the joke. But then towards the end, because he's a legitimately, I think, nice person who's seen the depths of darkness, who's been at the wrong place, he definitely knew that maybe going there was maybe bad and could end up, you know, really fucking up Brendan's mood, and just as a maybe of a shitty thing to say. He kind of, I felt a bit bad for saying it towards the end. His face kind of changed a little bit. It was a bit more demure, but overall, it's really interesting what they're talking about, because in general, this is maybe, or this is definitely, in my opinion, a confirmation of what everything we have been saying on the fucking, you know, Fighting the Kid subreddit for years. People have been saying on this sort of stream that I've been talking about for ages, for the longest time possible. And the thing that's really funny about this whole situation when it comes to Gringo Papi and the flipping YouTube and all that sort of, you know, death by 1,000 self-inflicted cuts, is that this stuff doesn't actually matter. In the long and short of it, it doesn't actually matter. It really, really, really doesn't, right? Matter in all shapes and sizes. But I feel like the reason why this matters more is that Brendan was the one who was going out of his way to try and make himself seem bigger than what he actually was. That was a weird thing about it. He went out of his way to really make it known that, hey, I'm this big star comedian guy and I'm selling out all these places and I deserve to have this Showtime special and I'm working harder than you guys. I've clearly got something more special here, blah, blah, blah. And to the point where when he did get kicked off of Showtime, or he ended that partnership or whatever happened, and then he didn't get that second special on any big major network or streaming service, and he put it up on YouTube, he still tried to spin it as if he's the one that told Netflix, Amazon, Comedy Central, wherever it may be, no, I'm going to do it myself and I'm going to bet on myself, when clearly the first option was always to get on the streaming platform for that validation. But he tried to make it seem as if he was Billy Big Balls, which has always really disturbed me. And I feel like for the most part, that's why the fucking homeless cats on the Fighting the Kid subreddit, they go out of their way to try and disprove him, because he always tries to sell a lie. And I've actually got a Patreon out at the moment, so definitely check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Agostino, where I talk about the art of lying and I go through some compilation where he basically says all these lies. And I feel like in general, that's basically been one of his major Achilles heels, is the fact that he lies and he embellishes and he tries to make himself look bigger than what he is, when clearly we all know the truth, RIP to Draco, and people go out of their way to disprove his lies. So when he did all this stuff about he refused all the networks, people knew, looking at the special and how it was produced, that clearly this wasn't of the level that any flipping network would accept in the first place. So clearly you were lying. And then when he put out the special, it was 30 minutes, and it wasn't even 30 minutes of jokes. It was maybe 24, 22 when you discount the intro and the outro and all that nonsense. And him coming on stage, it was absolutely obscene. He couldn't even manage to do a 30-minute special all in full. He had to do 27 minutes, and most of it was the most hacky, terrible comedy I've ever seen in my entire life. Most people would agree with that, even if you're not, you know, if you kind of put your bias and agenda maybe to one side. That's a major part of it. And then on top of it, you think about Steve and you think about his background, and you think about what was happening towards the end of Jackass, and the fact that maybe Jackass was maybe, you know, was basically coming to a point where it was getting a bit boring, it was getting a bit try hard. He was obviously getting a bit older. He couldn't necessarily put his body through the same level of pain and whatever else he was doing before when he was younger. And clearly he was fixing up his life outside of Jackass in terms of getting sober and all that malarkey. It made sense that he tried to go into stand-up comedy, because he needed an out. He needed a way, an avenue to kind of generate money that didn't involve him basically putting his body at risk anymore. Cool. He tried to do that. Then he goes into stand-up comedy, and clearly it doesn't work the way he wanted it to work. He kind of starts off a bit shit. He starts off a bit obscene. He starts off trying to do like Jackass on stage. All these type of things happen. And he eventually has to get to a point where he starts to respect the craft again. Oh, whoa. Big up algorithm.
Horse, pill, clinking beer mugs.
Big up algorithm. Yeah, you know the vibes, man. You know the vibes. This weekend we're gonna get lit. LIT. Big up, big up. I feel like so with Steve-O, he did what he did, and in terms of getting involved in flipping stand up, he realized going into it being a celebrity or going into trying to replicate what he did on Jackass didn't work. And in general, you have, maybe his stand up in terms of that kind of aggressive way is maybe, or the way he presents himself on Jackass maybe wouldn't translate that well on stage, blah blah blah. And then what he did is what Brendan didn't do, in my opinion. What he did that Brendan didn't do is that he legitimately tried to become a student of the game. He went back to the drawing board and he started to get educated on how to put bits together, how to present himself better on stage, where to go and get time, all this sort of stuff. And he eventually got to a point where now he's a legitimate stand-up comic, to the point where other peers in the industry are definitely crediting him for the work that he did and how he's doing it the right and correct way. And that's where Brendan fucked up. And I don't know why, to this day, I still don't know why Brendan did it that way. I don't know why he decided to essentially basically go through it in a way where he didn't do many open mics. He didn't try and perform in front of crowds that were on his own, and he just started doing stand-up, and he's still doing stand-up the same way, where he essentially does, basically it's kind of like he's doing a live T-Fat-K, because he's only performing to his own fans. He doesn't ever go and do like a show with random people on the lineup and just do it for the sake of it. He only presents, or mostly performs, only at his own shows. And I feel like that's what essentially fucked him up in the long run. And obviously he's an ability to be funny. He maybe doesn't have good writers around him. Maybe doesn't bother trying to hire them or pay them, whatever it may be doing. But in general, all of those refusals to do things the normal, traditional way that everyone else has done it has basically put him in a position now where he's playing catch up, trying to fix himself now, but it's too late. It's too late, because why would you bother trying to perform in front of crowds that aren't yours if you're doing well selling tickets for people that do like you? Maybe it's not selling tickets well, who knows, but just in general, just run through the exercise. Why bother doing that if you can make a quick buck just playing for your own crowd and playing to home base? It makes no sense to try and go out there and try and put yourself through pain just for the sake of it, to appease some comedy purists. But if he wants his career to get better, if he wants to actually improve in his comedy, that's what he would actually go and do. But he hasn't done that in forever, in a long time. So that's basically where I kind of see where Steve-O was able to see, oh shit, I could have ended up like a Brendan if I started to believe my shit doesn't stink. If he did believe his shit didn't stink back then and didn't take the advice from maybe some really legendary people in the industry, maybe he could have ended up like SCHAUB. And obviously his trajectory, the fact that they both had Showtime specials, and the fact that the second special and how that went for both of them definitely varied and went in different directions, and career prospects and how he's loved and adored in the industry and all that sort of stuff impacted it. But in general, I found this really illuminating, and clearly for me, this definitely showed that Brendan's stock within that little JRE extended universe has definitely dropped somewhat, maybe considerably, to the point where maybe it's never going to get back to where it was before in the past, 100%, because I don't think, 5 years ago, you would have never heard anybody within that little clique of people saying or laughing or basically calling him out directly as they did in any way, shape or form. They would have never done. They would have never dared, because they knew what Joe Rogan would have come down like a ton of bricks, or Brendan would have used the association with Joe as a fear tactic to make sure people don't talk bad about him. So the fact that people are talking like this is clearly evidence that that guy's stock has dropped considerably. And the fact that fucking Tony Hinchcliffe was laughing hysterically with his eyes flipping rolling back into his head and whatnot, for me is also proof that he is definitely, because these comedians as well, they're worse than us. People think we're bad, right? We're on here laughing at these guys who are way more successful than us, right? Living this amazing rich lifestyle. We're pointing and laughing at all their mistakes. But I legitimately think, especially male comedians, they are the most gossipy, backstabby bunch of people ever. So I don't ever deny myself in my head that these guys aren't, big up Michael Griffin, in the green room gossiping and bickering about these guys and kind of commenting and saying how bad this guy is, how did he do. No. I legitimately think that these guys are talking about each other, in the green room constantly. So the fact that they bring up on podcasts is definitely one of those, and they laughed like this, definitely shows me that they're talking about them behind the scenes, because it's stuff that they would never dare to talk about in public, but they know they're doing it in the green rooms. That's that face. When's the last time you've seen Tony Hinchcliffe laugh like that for real? His whole face is red. He's absolutely heaving. He knows that's the thing that you shouldn't say. It's the big elephant in the room, and flipping, fucking, what's his face? Steve-O set that up brilliantly. What an absolute brilliant, brilliant bit. And if you're Brendan, you're definitely going to be feeling sad, sipping your Tiger Cum whiskey. Listen to that for sure. 100% sure. Let me actually get this off the screen. Let me get this actually, because the chat, why is it doing this? Why is the chat not why is it not loading properly here? I don't like this. What's going on here? Huh? Did it go? Chat box, where is it? Why is it not there? I don't know. Should be there. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, madness. What people saying in the chats. Tony hates on Thea Vaughn and Tim Dillon replaced Tony as Joe's best buddies. Really? Does Tony Hinchcliffe hate Thea Vaughn? I never noticed that. Okay. Schaub is too dumb to be seen as evil. He could definitely be a comeback tour. Fair, maybe. Maybe. Coiler says how the hack is to be back from as Anchorman. Maybe Ucha said maybe what's that? I think Ucha says I think Schaub can maybe turn his career around if he learns to be a little self-deprecating and lean into it. Of course, Uche. That's the thing that's really excruciating about fucking Brendan. If he legitimately, honestly, this is even me speaking as a former fan and now a flipping classified hater, as all the comments always say. I'm a hater. Capital H, H gang, right? Hater, right? There we are. The honestly annoying thing about life in general is that because his podcast does so well, even considering all its shortcomings and the fact that it's fucking boring and they clearly aren't the best of friends anymore, Brendan and Brian, if he legitimately did come out and say, you know what, I fess up to everything, I am exactly who you say I am, I'm going to try and do better, I'm going to try and lean into the joke and be a little bit self-deprecating, allow people to take the piss out of me and not give them the evil death stare every time they go a bit too far, and actually try and banter back and be a comedian and take life a little bit less seriously and not be so pent up and sensitive about people mocking me online or in person, he could legitimately win people over. 100% win people over. But will he do that? Will he be that person? You know, history tells us no. So that's the annoying thing about it. Like, he has the ability to do so, but he refuses to do so just because he doesn't want to. So it is what it is, isn't it? It kind of is what it is. But I think the context is really, really... Oh, yeah, true. And Jeremiah Melek saying, he's not funny. That is also the major component. That's the why he probably doesn't do certificate, but what hasn't worked out for him. Because a part of me also thinks, do you know Steve Martin, right? People say Steve Martin, right? That famous comedian and comedic actor. People say he's a piece of shit behind the scenes, right? People have got many, many horror stories that they share about Steve Martin behind the scenes. But because he's really talented and really funny, it doesn't matter. He kind of gets away with it. And I think that's a problem in the entertainment industry. If you're terrible at what you do and you're not funny, people won't give you the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to let you get away with some shit. But because Steve Martin's fucking funny and he's a legendary actor, I know I'm not comparing Brendan Shaw to Steve Martin, but you get what I mean. I think that's Brendan's real problem. If he was actually funny, people would let him get away with everything that he gets away with. But because he's not funny, but he's been given this position where people are looking at him as he's funny, it kind of makes people get really angry and really pent up. Because there's even a clip that I should have played that I wish I had, where there was a clip from the Save Our Parks episode with Ari Shafir, Shane Gillis, Mark Norman and Joe Rogan, where I think Shane Gillis is saying, oh, look at Ari, look how he's smiling, look how happy he looks. And Joe's like, yeah, that's what happens, isn't it? Like, when you're not doing well and you're not, you know, your career's not going well, it's hard to be like smiley and happy because you know you're good at what you do, kind of to paraphrase, but your career, it doesn't reflect how good you are. And I think that's essentially what happened with Brendan. I said it beforehand. I honestly do think a lot of the bad karma, a lot of the bad energy around him is because there are all these guys on a ground level. Think about it, right, guys? Think about it for a second. Think about all the guys that we know about through podcasts. We know about them through Your Mum's House. We know about them through Tiger Belly. We know about them through, you know, what, Tim Dillon. We know about them through Fear. All these people that we know about from the Joe Rogan Extended Universe, right? Think about all those people. And then think about all those people outside of that Joe Rogan Extended Universe who maybe don't have popular podcasts, who maybe aren't regulars at the Comedy Store, who maybe don't do big blockbuster tours, people just kind of working every day, slugging it out, doing the bits. Imagine how they must feel when flipping Brendan Shaw pulls up in his fucking Ford Raptor, right? Pulling up to the fucking Comedy Store, right? Let's see if I can get here. Truck Comedy Store. Imagine how you must feel. You're a 10-year comic, a 12-year comic, 15-year comic, right? And you see this guy who's legitimately unfunny and he's pulling up to the Comedy Store car park, driving a car that you can't even afford. right? You're struggling to afford that. Can I see if I can say Brendan Shaw comedy? Let's see truck. You can't even afford the petrol in that car, and this guy's driving it as one of his cars that he drives to the flipping comedy store at one moment, and he's parking in a spot where all the comedian parks. Imagine how horrendously offended that you would be, right? Let's see if I can find it actually. Where is it? It's a Ford. Is it? It was a Ford Raptor. There you go, Raptor F-150, right? And I think it was a souped up one. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. It's one of those white ones, I think. It's something like this. Imagine him pulling up the comedy store and you're a young comic, relatively unknown, don't have a popping podcast, and you're just struggling to make ends meet. And here he comes pulling up the most unfunny guy you've ever seen in your history of your life, talking about fucking salsa cookies and mariachi bands that dance and sing every time you fart in your house. It's like a mariachi band dancing, talking about pico de gallo, all that sort of stuff, right? That shit. Imagine. And you're there busting your ass at the fucking ticket store, waiting and fucking taking stick from Karens and entitled rich kids and TikTok stars, and he pulls up with, you know, not one funny joke under his arsenal in a truck. It's no surprise that those guys are hating and have such a bad mood, because you legitimately know your talent. Because imagine if you're Irish Shafir, you've been sitting on that special for what, 4 years? Maybe 5, right? And you legitimately know you're funny, you legitimately know you got a legit proper good stand-up special that you've been sitting on, and then you're seeing this Brendan Shaw guy ascend to bits in his career that his talent doesn't necessarily, you know, reflect in any way, shape or form. It makes sense why you would be a hater, right? A HADDER or a HADER. It would make complete and utter sense. So I think that was his main problem. I've said it plenty of times. I think he should have played his position, in my opinion. He should have always played position. You should have never, ever tried to be, you know, too pally with all those big names and wigs that he knew. He should have just slummed it with the people who were within his kind of comedic sort of, you know, age range in terms of how long they've been doing comedy for, and he would have been far better off in the scene, far better off in the industry, probably had way more friends in the little comedy circle too, because I don't think he has many, and he would have been far better off. It's basically similar, I always say, to having rich friends. I have a couple of friends that I know who are very well off, the kind of friends who don't look at their bill when they want to pay for food, the kind of friends who always seem to have money to buy really expensive things no matter what time in the month it is. You know, some people have money at the beginning of the month, some people have money in the middle, some people have money at the end. No, they have money every single time to buy something. They buy tickets to every festival, but they're also a bit humble with it. They don't like to brag or boast too much, but they're definitely rich. I've always said, in my opinion, that you shouldn't hang out with your rich friends too often, because most of the time you'll end up being that person who compares himself to your friends, even though your friends may have, you know, parents' money, they may just be, you know, super genius entrepreneurs, they may just be lucky, whatever it may be, but there's no point comparing, because you're never going to be them. You're better off wasting that time trying to invest it in yourself to get more money, or to basically try and make your money stretch out a little bit longer, in my opinion. Yo, big up a good robot. That's what I think personally. So I've never really agreed with start hanging around your rich friends. I think it legitimately does corrupt you and make you be a little bit of a bitter person and whatnot. And I think that's what ends up with Brendan. I think hanging out with those comedians ended up making other comedians hate him, because they've been busting their ass for ages to try and get there, and he just get there because he's friends with them or something, or because he shares a good laugh or whatever it may be. And imagine also, he's fucking on JRE, the most appearances ever. Imagine all that stuff, how that must irate people if you don't really know him too tough for his history. So I feel like having rich friends is a good analogy for the whole Brendan thing. Stay away from them, hang out with your brokies, hang out with rich friends. If you have no money, from time to time they can maybe take out for a drink, but for the most part, hang with your brokies, don't hang with the rich ones. But I also want to hear the context, because I think the context was very interesting about what they were talking about when it came to Brendan Shaw, because this actually definitely gives you an idea as to where people are in their career and why it's really important to do things the right way, because it feels like doing things the right way and actually slogging it out, weirdly enough, is like this. Weird enough, I think here's what happens. I think if you don't slog it out in anything that you're doing, what happens is that if people don't like what you do, like for instance, if people don't find you funny, but they see that you did it the right way, they're still going to give you props. Because they're like, you know what, in spite of me not thinking you're funny, and maybe the majority of people in general, in public, not thinking you're funny because you're a bit of a niche, you still made it happen. It will give them more reason to respect you. But if you come into it and don't do it the right way, and you're not funny, and you're somehow successful, that's when these comedians who are already naturally a little bit bitchy and complainy and backstabby, that's when they'll start to get really angry and really pissed off. So I think that's essentially what happened. But I think this clip taken from the Steve-O podcast, which basically explains a little bit in context what they were talking about prior to getting to that Brendan Schaub rip, will give you an understanding of why they got to where they got to and why it probably stings way more. So let's play this.
So we decided to just start running it through a process. And
Right. So what's the delay?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So people aren't gonna see how much I crushed it on there for 2 weeks.
That's true.
Man.
Unless you put this out in 2 weeks, in which case it would have happened yesterday.
It will happen.
Yeah. How about
in 2
that?
weeks.
What day does it go up?
2 from yesterday, so the 28th. 2 from the 14th. So
And
the
it'll
28th.
be a Monday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Thanksgiving's Thursday the 24th. So yeah.
How about that?
That was fucking amazing, by the way. That was
thanks,
so
dude.
perfect. It's just amazing. I mean, it worked out on so many levels in so many ways, and your story is just hilarious. It's great that you get to there's risk reward on a show like that, right? You're like,
Yeah.
Jesus, what if something gets fucking stuck in my throat? What if something gets in my eye? What if anything? What if there's pee on my pants? What if my shoelace is untied? In any circumstance, so many things can go wrong, and when it goes fucking great, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like you think, well, here I'm on Kill Tony. I'm gonna get up and do the like somebody out of the bucket, But I do this, like, I better fucking do good, or this is gonna be awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool that you get that validation from Tom on top of, what I gave you about how you did the work, man. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
thank
many
you,
people,
man.
and I even had this talk with Joe last night in the green room of the show that we did about how you went and did it. There's the old trope of comedians that are like, oh, someone's coming that's already famous, like, yikes, good luck. But man, you really did it and made the adjustments, and you didn't let your ego do the stand-up comedy work. You know what I mean?
Thanks so much, man.
That's hard.
Which is why that joke that they say at the end, or that Steve says at the end, hits better, because they were clearly talking about the elephant in the room, which the elephant in the room was clearly Brendan Schaub or people like him, maybe Jeremy Piven's and some other people who also got cancelled during the whole Me Too thing and suddenly pivoted into comedy. Jeremy Piven's flipping pivot into comedy was hilarious. Suddenly he became the funny guy. This dude who was a really deep actor who cared a lot about acting, who just did, I think he came off the back of that big, it was meant to be big at the time, Mr. Selfridge, that absolutely tanked. Whoever set that up was really pissed off, I reckon. This whole fucking docu-film series thing that was a kind of a period piece that might have, rid the success of that other stuff that everyone was watching, that period drama where everyone was fucking each other. They put out this, they're going to put this idea out of this amazing story talking about Mr. Selfridge, who was the founder of the Department of Selfridges and whatnot. And then, the Me Too thing happens at the same time. It completely kills any promotion of that movie. And then suddenly Jeremy Piven steps out with a waistcoat and a fucking fedora, and he's suddenly telling jokes. I mean, he suddenly popped out with a waistcoat, a fedora, wearing a wallet chain, and some fucking dirty boots that he bought from Zara. Absolutely shocking. So it could be Brendan, it could be him or anybody else, but I do feel that this is why the joke hit deeper, because they were clearly talking about that kind of overarching topic of these people who don't deserve their position getting on the same stage as them and not doing the work and clearly cheating and kind of jumping over some steps.
To do. It's hard to be that self-aware. We see it all the time, even with people that get great. Ooh. They all of a sudden kind of realize they're great. Like, it's like a championship fighter, right?
Yeah.
When you have that belt, all of a sudden you get invited to more of this and more of that, and life is this, and you can get comfortable and content, and instead you're out here fucking driving a van across the country, doing spots, doing podcasts, getting guests, thriving, making huge appearances, creating your own body of work that you don't have to give to freaking whoever, Warner Brothers or MGM or whatever it all is. And, you know, we live in a very, very fun time. It's very exciting.
It really, really is, man. I remember when I started making YouTube videos, I thought like, oh, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And like,
it's funny, dude. I've written for the last, 10 Comedy Central roasts or whatever. And I remember when being on YouTube and having a podcast were the insults on somebody a decade ago. And now on these things, and for the last 2 or 3, I got to watch it go all the way to being the intro for somebody.
Right.
You know your next comedian from their hit podcast, blah, 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 or their hit channel, doopity boop. Like,
it's crazy.
Well, it's crazy. We go to Just for Laughs and like, we'll go see a show at a theater beforehand. And I'm like, who are these guys? Like, dude, they're YouTubers and they're fucking selling out.
Yeah.
And then the video game people. When
Twitch.
when the comedy club or some theater is like people playing video games and it's completely sold out from people coming to pay money to watch people play video games.
That's insane. I
don't
just
get
heard
it.
of this the other day. I still
Really?
don't believe it.
And they're making so much money.
I guess that's what somebody told me.
I've always said that like I think video games are responsible for like the decline of our nation.
Yeah.
You know, like just the idea of just sitting there and just wasting your time playing video games, just becoming fat and just lazy and unmotivated. But then now we're taking it to another level. People
Wings of Redemption disagrees.
are actually wasting their time watching other people play video games.
It's unbelievable.
Who is that porn star that Adriana Chechnik or something? She's what do
Or something.
I know? But no, she's I guess she went from porn to streaming video games, and she was at some award show. She broke her back. And I mean,
She broke her back at the award show?
I guess she fell and like she was in pain or whatever. But
That's not normally how porn stars get their back broken
they had
out.
their back, she threw her back out. But they were like, you know, when it made the headlines, it was like in famous Twitcher, you know, Adriana whatever. I'm like, she's just not even known as a porn star anymore. She's just a video game streamer.
I wonder if she twitched when she broke her back.
But yeah, I mean, it's there's some crazy money involved in that, you know.
It's insane.
And these chicks dress up smoking hot and they play video games, and it's just
Yeah, I mean, T-Pain was telling us that like he's making more money playing video games on Twitch than from music.
Wow.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So what's your touring like? How much are you touring on your own as a headliner?
Here it comes.
I've been doing it. Yeah. I've been going way too hard. Yeah.
Too hard.
Yeah.
I think that's the case with everybody after the pandemic. We just went ape shit.
Yeah.
Everybody's just, Tom's fried, you're fried, I'm fried, you're free, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's fried.
Yeah.
So you just go to the weekends?
Yeah. And yeah. A couple weeks ago I did a longer run and it burnt me out so hard that I haven't really caught up since then. But now I'm done. I'm at the point to where I get to call my shots, and so like I have December off except for Arlington, Dallas in the middle of December. And that's a 2.5 hour drive. So that's like really, really easy. No
You
airports.
mean the Arlington where Gringo PAPI was filmed?
Wait, is that where that was filmed?
Is it?
The Dallas Improv, Arlington?
I think so, yeah.
That's where Gringo PAPI was filmed.
No.
Dude, tough act to follow.
Pressure's on.
Oh man, how do you know that? How do you know that was filmed there?
I was fascinated by the entire. I even know where the construction paper came from.
Oh my god.
I even know who cut it out.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah, we all are. We're all very fascinated about it.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, just like I'm particularly close to that because of the known for other things coming into stand-up, like first special on Showtime, you know, and then like putting out the second special on you know, on your own.
35 minutes.
25.
Was it really?
It was 25.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's interesting. It's like death by 1,000 self-inflicted paper cuts or something like that.
It's pretty intense. But yeah, like so I was particular.
Anyway, you know the deal. But big up Tony Hinchcliffe, big up Steve-O. A very decent, I felt like a very decent comedic view, or a very decent comedic summation of what everyone's been saying online about Brendan, his career, essentially, because he cut corners, he jumped some steps, he's not very introspective, he's not very self-deprecating, and clearly not funny, and now he's in a position where he's in, isn't it? Clearly is what it is. What can you do? Life sometimes fucks you over. But what are people talking about here? I heard somebody on here talking about a fucking documentary. Who's got a documentary? Tony Hinchcliffe's got a documentary. What documentary has Tony Hinchcliffe got? What are these words? What are these Tony Hinchcliffe documentary words? What are you speaking about? Is this lies? Is this truth? What's going on here? Tony Hinchcliffe documentary. What documentary is it? Why would he have a documentary? Let's see here. For himself, really? No way. You know what's funny when you write Tony Hinchcliffe? Look at the things that come up. People are really interested in finding out if he's got a wife or a girlfriend. This is look what comes up when you search his name: wife, artist, mum, girlfriend. Like Peng Dang, obviously that could. People really want him. People really want Tony Hinchcliffe to be gay, innit? I don't know why. I think I know why. Because Joe Rogan's got that thing that he does. I think some of you are aware. Are you guys aware of that Joe Rogan thing that he does every podcast where he speaks about how many comedians exist in the world? There's only 1,000 comedians, and he's also got this bit that he always does about some guy in his social circle who everybody knows is gay but keeps it hidden, but doesn't want to tell anybody. There's this person that everyone knows who's actually secretly gay, and everyone always assumes a secretly gay person is Tony for some reason, just because he's effeminate and he's got that nasally voice, and he seems to only like women who look like men in terms of UFC fighters. That's the only reason people have to say he's gay. It's really harsh, to be honest. People said he had documentary about himself. Let's see. Documentary. Where is it? Documentary. What is this documentary? What are these Tony Hinchcliffe documentary words? Let's see what you guys are talking about, because I'm absolutely. Where is it? Was that Red Bar thing you're talking about? Is it the one shot? What's it called? What's the documentary called? What was it called? The doc part is lame as fuck, but I only brought it up because okay. What's that? The doc part is lame. Okay. What's everyone saying here? What is the documentary? I don't know. Red letters on the thumbnail. What? You just passed it. Red letters on the thumbnail. Where is it? Oh, this one. Okay, Making Friends. This documentary. This thing. It's called Roadkill Calgary or something. Okay, cool. I'll check it out another time. Let me do a little print screen. I'll check it out later. Fair play. Thanks for the recommendation, lads and lasses in the chat. I do appreciate you as per usual. Let's go back into what we're talking about. What else we have to cover here? We've got some other things to cover, innit? Where is it? What else we got to cover? So many things in there I haven't actually gone through. Let me go through these bits and pieces. Bear with me a second here. Boom. Oh yeah, let's see this. This is Brendan going on some show with some guy who I guess is some college football trainer person dude. It's a clip taken from the Friday Kids subreddit, so it's definitely not mine. And the question is something about how you deal with hecklers and all that stuff. And let's hear Brendan's expert opinion on how to deal with hecklers and how to be a beast of a comedian. where you don't bomb and you're the funniest ever and you bet on yourself. Let's see what he has to say here. Let's get this clip loaded up on the thing. Bear with me. There we go.
How hard is it not to yell at people in the crowd? But I love how you interact with people in the crowd too. Tell me about that give and take, because I've always been like astonished by it.
Yeah, so now I love it now, and it's real.
God almighty, I thought I had audio issues, bro. He's blowing out those speakers, man. Now, fuck me, bro.
It happens. I mean, certain markets like the markets everyone thinks about, like Boston can be tough, New York, Philly, they can be harsh crowds if they're not feeling the material. When I was first, I've been doing stand-up almost 8 years now. I've been headlining 6 years. So, when I first started, if someone...
Think about that for a second. This man's nearly been doing comedy for 10 years. 10 years. And he's still not close to being funny. In like the objective way. Some people are like, oh, some people's comedy isn't for you and it's different tastes. No, in a objective way, he isn't funny in the slightest any way, shape or form. It's really incredible to see, to be honest. If it was me and I was nearly 10 years in and I wasn't even good, I'd be really questioning my decision-making process. But, that's the thing. When you got a bit of fame outside of what you do, it always can maybe muddy the waters, because if you didn't have a podcast and had, fans from UFC and all that stuff, it would definitely be a different story. But with those fans already built in who kind of just like you for you, I think Theo said it once on one pod, where I think he was basically trying to explain to himself why maybe Brendan sells more tickets than him sometimes, is the fact that people just like you, just want to see you. You know what I mean? That's what they want. They just want to see you. So I definitely get that. Let's go.
You fluster me a little bit because you don't have the chops. You're just
right.
Like, this is not good. And you just power through it, try to ignore it, and hopefully security gets to them. But once you've been doing it long enough, if someone says something, you can engage with them. I did a show for 4 years with Theo Vaughn. It was a roast show. So me and him would just roast each other. So that built my chops to light people up, because Theo's
like the locker room all over again.
Yeah, bro. It's and I grew up in locker room, so especially if I can see them, I'm like,
that's not true though, is it really? Because if anything, if this whole thing about him growing up in locker rooms was true, he would have been way funnier when he first did King and Sting than what he actually was, because I felt like it took him a while to get warmed up on King and Sting and really be able to, fire back at Theo when he said what he said. For the longest time, it felt like a one-way street, which I felt like is why they kind of changed the direction of the show. Maybe it wasn't meant to last for too long, but I felt like they quickly changed the format direction, because Brendan couldn't handle the fact that he was getting ripped every single weekend when Theo and him first met. Because, if you meet Brendan for the first time and he tells you to destroy him and rip into him, you're going to say some stuff, because he's clearly has a lot of things about him that he can rip. So this whole retcon of the story is pretty interesting, how he's basically trying to flip it another way.
Like, oh, dude,
it's on,
bro. And then the fans love it. The fans absolutely love it. It's like, yeah, how do you think this is going to end for you? I do this for a living, dude. And I'm literally going to get a bit out of this, you idiots, man. So it's like, because stand up, you're a lion tamer. You're basically a lion tamer, where if that lion realizes he can get over on you, you're screwed. You're going to lose it. You're going to get killed. So you gotta show authority there. So I'm doing my thing.
Ooh, lion tamer, beast. These guys, man, they legitimately think they're slaying dragons, isn't it? Hero's journey and all that shit. Fuck off.
So I can see, and it was like a small type theater. She's on the second rafters.
Right.
And I can see out of the corner of my eye, like she's talking, but nothing, she's not saying anything to me. But her husband, they won't get talking. So people are yelling at them to shut up. And her husband's taking Kit Kats and he's throwing it at the table below him. And in my head, as I'm in the middle of my set, in my head, I'm like, that can't be good. But no one's going to do anything in the middle. So he was throwing it just at the wrong bro, dude. And this guy scales the bleachers, gets up there, and the whole crowd turns around. And he jumps off the freaking stand. Superman punches this dude in the face. What? And the whole crowd's like chanting, like, yeah, I'm cheering. Turns into this like weird cock fest thing. And then like straight up fighting cock fest, like not good. And in my head, I'm like, oh, how the hell am I going to get this crowd back? And then some young man in the front row, he's like 18 or 19, he yells loud as he could, goes, twist his dick off. And the whole crowd starts laughing. And I noted down, like, oh, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank God. Thank God. So once the security got them, kicked everybody out. And so I'm like, can I get back to my act down? They're like, please. They start clapping. When I first started, if someone, you'd fluster me a little bit because you don't have the chops, you know, you're just like, this is not good. And you just power through to try to ignore it. And hopefully security gets to them. I was playing Baltimore like 3 months ago. And in my head, as I'm in the middle of my set.
Who knows what's true and what he's saying, but God almighty, man. This nigga's absolutely screaming through his laptop, blowing out every single speaker and lying in the process. But hey, you got to do what you got to do in it to keep the lights on. But God almighty, mate, the lies are fucking incredible, innit? Really, really are. All right, somebody Superman punched somebody up in the bleachers. Yeah, true. Okay. Honestly, my guy lies so much, man. I fucking really do enjoy him. He's such a professional and consistent liar. It's absolutely incredible to see in real time. I don't care, man. But anyway. Oh God Almighty. Let's just leave that as it is. Let's see another clip I want to quickly show you. 1 second. Which one I want to see? Oh yeah, this is quite good. This is what it looks like. What's his face? What's his name? Eric Griffin and Chris D'Elia's brother, which is really interesting now. Chris D'Elia's brother is essentially now the de facto sit-in for Chris, because now Chris is selling tickets and his career's gone back to some level of normalcy. Normalcy, however you fucking say that word. He clearly doesn't want to be sitting next to Brendan Schaub, trying to fucking hold down a comedy show. So now his brother's starting to sub in a lot often than he was in the past, which is pretty interesting, which definitely goes to my theory that for sure Chris is not on here until the summer of next year. I don't see it anywhere, shape or form. He's definitely going to be off. But yeah, this is them talking about the whole Liver King thing, having another hot take. Let's see what they say about that.
Finally kidding. I'm not on YouTube. I don't see his Instagram or anything like that. And when they told me, I was like, oh, who is he? They have to tell me who he is. So I looked into him. Like,
by the way, a telltale sign that this man's always lying is the darting of the eyes, and when he does this hand touching stuff, starts flickering his eye. That's usually a good tell that he's lying. Like he's trying to act ambivalent and not caring, not giving a fuck about the situation. It's not that big of a deal. That's usually a tell that he's lying, in my opinion.
He seems like a character. And then we came out, great guy, nice guy, good dad. Like his message was good. Like,
great guy, never met him.
Promotes health, cool dude. And then we got done like 3 days later. My brother's like, man, we're getting a ton of emails. People are pitching us if he's on steroids. I'm like, well, of course he is, though.
Yeah, it's no.
And I was like, no, that can't be real. He's like, I'm telling you, we got a ton of emails. I'm like, but why would I ask him that? Of course.
How could you not know? I agree. Yeah,
that's like asking Chin if he's Asian.
Yes,
like this we know this.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit different though, isn't it? What a bad analogy. All he sees in Chin is an Asian guy. That's all he sees ultimately. He just sees an Asian guy that records his podcast for him. Nothing else, nothing more. Yo, the fucking cable management of that studio is horrendous, isn't it? Really, to be honest. No? God damn it. I'm pretty sure it's maybe mobile. Maybe that's why they do it like that. Maybe it kind of moves around, but the cable management of it and the cleanliness of it is all over the gaff.
Well, I'm going to have to push back.
So, of course.
Chin's not Asian.
But I was just saying.
Chin's Irish.
But I was like, of course. And then they're like, yeah, but he's promoting. I'm like, wait, but he's promoting a healthy lifestyle. And as far as I know, maybe I'm off. And again, I don't have my master.
I love how he's retconning this. He was fighting and defending Liver King to Callan on his pod. Then he gets on the golden hour and suddenly lowers his tone. He's not talking with the same level of bass. And now he's trying to make it seem like he's just this innocent, sweet boy who got duped into putting the Liver King on his platform because he just believed him being a good father. Fuck right off.
Degree in Liver King, but
I do.
He's never been like take my whatever 10 steps to ancestral living.
Yes, he has.
Do steroids.
Yes, he has.
And he's never said if you do what I do.
Yes, he has.
Meaning, like living that healthy lifestyle, you're gonna look like.
Yes,
this.
he has.
Let's say that though.
He implies
yes,
that.
Yeah.
It's implied. That's why it's messed up.
Yeah, I agree.
Look how he's having such a hard time understanding what implied means, or suggested, or encouraged. Right? You have to say something flat out, or you didn't say it in his idea or in his head. It's not a lie unless you actually said you lied or you actually lied. It's only a lie if you Yeah, that's what basically thinks his head, right? Yeah, it's only a lie if you actually lie. Anything else out of that is just your interpretation of the events that happened. That's probably a good excuse for a serial cheater, isn't it? Like, nah, babe, it didn't happen that way. You're just reading into it too much. But I saw you fucking her on outside the hotel balcony door. What the fucking? I was giving her the Heimlich because she had something stuck in her throat, darling. Right? It's that kind of stuff.
There are people at home who are like, "Wow, look at this guy. He doesn't sleep on a regular bed. He works out all the time. He's talking about a good living." And so it's implied, even if he didn't say it or not, it's implied that if I do this, I'm gonna look like that, or I can look my best.
Yeah.
Well, should we cancel the fucking psychic reader buildings too? It's like, if you're dumb enough to give them money,
Yeah,
you think they can
right,
see the
right,
future,
right,
dumbass.
There's no
That's on
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
get a booster shot, right?
Yeah.
The joke of that at the end, the booster shot, honestly. Yeah, nothing else needs to be said about that. Whatever. He's not keeping the same energy. It depends who he's around, really. When he's around certain people, he says certain stuff. When he's around other people, he says other things. So clearly, he's trying to play both sides, as Brendan always usually does in these sort of predicaments. What's another thing? Oh, can somebody explain this joke to me? I'm still trying to work this out. I don't really see how this is funny. Or I don't even understand the premise of it. Maybe someone can explain it to me, because maybe I'm not a flipping beast of a comic. I don't have rock hard flat abs and shit, and I don't, have a fucking purple Lamborghini or whatnot. Maybe that's why I don't understand it. But can someone explain to me why this is funny?
Dagestans, that's what they do. Hey, what's an easier job, being a Dagestani barber or being Liver King's chef?
Let's play that one more time and let's up the volume, because I still don't understand why this is funny. I really don't. Let's up the volume slightly so you can hear it at the back. But please explain to me why this joke is funny. Please, for the love of God.
Dagestans, that's what they do. Hey, what's an easier job, being a Dagestani barber or being Liver King's chef? Dagestans, that's what.
How does that even? I guess the Dagestanian thing makes sense because they all have the same kind of haircut because they're Muslim, right? They have the same sort of beard, like it just goes under the chin, and then the hair that's just one way. Cool. But what's that have to do with him being the Liver King chef? What's that got to do with anything? What, because he eats only organ meat? Because he takes steroids? Like, what's the punchline there? I don't understand why that's funny in the slightest. It's not even a misdirect. Like, what is that? I don't know, but that's some of his best material. I love the fact that Brian turned around and gave him the comedic, head assurance, like, "Oh man, you're right. Well done, well done." But it did sound like a Mark joke. It sounded like a BGO joke. It sounded like something he would definitely find funny if he read it on the fucking bodybuilding forum. I like that Frank Grillo didn't actually smirk in the slightest, because it definitely wasn't funny. But Sam Tripoli obviously had to laugh because he's getting paid to be there. Frank Grillo doesn't need to get paid to be there, so he's not laughing. And then the rest of it is what it is. But I don't know. I don't really understand why that was funny in the slightest. But they tried to laugh to make him feel better about himself, and clearly it worked. But the premise of that was fucking incredibly horrible. I don't get it in the slightest, mate. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe what I should do, I should go one day. I think someone did it actually already. I think someone may have did it already in the Fire Kids subreddit. Maybe I should go one day and go to an open mic and just try and do like 5 to 10 minutes, which would be fucking excruciating because I've never done it, and then see what happens, right? Because if these niggas are getting paid to fly around the world telling jokes like that, then I maybe have to give it a try and try out some Mexican cookie jokes. Imagine Mexican cookies. Oh, this guy's a fucking legend, man. What an absolute legend. And then another clip I want to play for you. Where is it? Let me try and see if I can find it here. Where can I find it? Bear with me a second as I find it. I've got too many things to click through. Where is it? Oh yeah, let's play this because I haven't actually seen this, the full thing, because everyone's been laughing about it on the Fire Kids subreddit, but I want to actually watch this with you guys, so I saved it. So let's see if I can see this. Bear with me 1 second. Let me get this off the screen. Let's get this on here. Where is it? This one, because everyone's been laughing at this, but I haven't actually watched the whole thing yet. Let's see. So, as most of you know, it was the Fight Companion the other day, and I think they did two. They did UFC 282, and they also did one for Rough and Rowdy before that on Barstool Sports. And you know what Rough and Rowdy is? It's loads of regular folks from the streets basically getting into the ring and sorting out whatever grievances they have, or just fighting for the sake of it. And I think they win money and stuff, but it's a big production and show they put on, and it's pretty fun to watch, to be fair. I've watched only one, but I had a good time watching it, and I thought they put on a good show. Regardless, somehow Brendan ended up getting his Thick Boy Network Fight Companion bullshit to be associated with it. They did a live stream where they commentated on the fights, which was weird because they weren't really watching them, and it's not really a kind of card that you would have a Fight Companion for, because it is just regular people who are fighting, so it's more fun to actually listen to the on-air things, whatever it may be. They did it, and Schaub ended up doing the show. The first lineup was him and Theo Vaughn and Joey Diaz and a couple other people. Then that ended up falling through because he may have lied and just put those guys on the flyer and kind of forced them to do it, and then they backed out. But then he ended up pulling it around and getting Adam 22, Rampage Jackson, Donald Cerrone, and some guy called Teddy Swims, right? Teddy Swims. I'm not sure. I think he's a musician, I'm assuming. But there's a few exchanges between Brendan and Rampage Jackson that were really interesting, because I guess they were friends prior, because they were on the Contender series, right? I don't know what that reality TV show was called that Brendan did beforehand, but I guess that's why they were friends. Maybe they trained in the same gym, but I think that's where they started off being friends. So obviously Rampage, even though he's quite nutty himself and definitely a bit wild, he probably feels a lot more comfortable ribbing with Brendan because they used to be friends. But what he doesn't know is that Brendan is very thin-skinned and doesn't take well to being laughed at. He's he's like an opposite of a comedian. He doesn't like people laughing at him or he basically, he's kind of similar to Joe in that way. How Joe misses jokes, Brendan doesn't like to be joked at. Like, he doesn't like it in a slice. He laughs sometimes just to kind of be funny, but he doesn't enjoy it in one bit. So this is Rampage Jackson ribbing and teasing Brendan a bit. I haven't seen the whole clip, so I don't know what he says, but let's play and watch it together.
That fight league is growing.
Yeah.
You know what he's about, right?
Yeah.
You want to get your own team one day?
That'd be fun.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, because you're involved with it, right?
Yeah. I would love for you to have your own team and my team.
That'd be
shit
cool.
Out of your team.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I'd say after you beat them, eat their asses.
See, Rampage ain't shit, is
Hey, yeah, fuck no, fuck that. When it comes to that, I'm competitive when it comes to that shit.
I love that, man.
If Mr. Schwab get his own team, I want. Did I say it wrong?
Schwab.
Fuck,
It's all good.
I'm drunk. Schwab.
Look how angry Brendan is. Let's go. Look how angry his face is. Look at he's so happy. Look how pissed off he is. I know he's trying to act like he's concentrating and focusing on the board, but he definitely has a little bit of a trigger with the name. Oh, do you know what might be the reason? Do you remember that story that Brendan showed with this quite heartbreaking, actually? If you're an OG fan of the Fire and the Kid, you would know this. Brendan shared this story during his football days when I think he knew he wasn't going to get on a team because they didn't give him a shirt. But then when he did get a shirt, it had the wrong name on it or something, that they kind of just didn't care. Like, just take this and wear this. And obviously, that's obviously a sign that you're not that important, and they probably don't think of you long term as somebody that can be a part of the team. Do you remember that story? There was a story about that shirt thing. So maybe that's where it comes from. This whole trigger that he has of his name. That if you don't get his name right, Brandon, Schwab, whatever, people get really pissed off. But I thought that was hilarious. Let's continue.
Fuck,
It's all good.
I'm
Schwab.
drunk.
Yeah,
Schwab.
No,
Can
Schwab.
I tell you
Swab.
something? He has a very unusual name.
Yeah, it is. Especially when it's
Oh!
off the road, we hit him too.
It's Schwab.
Schwab.
Fuck that.
Look at all the stormtroopers.
So, Charles, you think you ever get back to fighting now?
No. Chin, what's y'all calling him?
Hell no, he making too much money. Think about
Brendan, yeah.
Never.
Big
I'm just
Brown.
calling him Brendan.
Big Brown.
You've been
too?
doing that your whole life?
What?
His last name
No,
is even
hell
harder to say.
Big Brown's like that. I only got
So when
started.
you first
It's not
when you
been
first
Brendan.
got started, was that like something you did your whole life up
No,
until?
never, I didn't grow up fighting at all. I grew up playing football, being a goofball. Said ball twice.
How you say his last name?
How'd you end up? You didn't,
Schwab.
I'm sure I could look that up.
just natural. It's just something I fell into, unfortunately.
Falling into fighting is
Schwab.
I can believe.
See, I'm not like Cowboy. Cowboy.
Falling into fighting is just not somebody.
Schwab.
Well, there's Charles. Dude, the guy who fucked up was Charles Schwab.
Yeah, that's Charles Schwab.
Charles Schwab was like the
Can I
financial.
tell you something, brother?
What, man?
You have a hard name. Fuck yeah.
Yours is Quentin, though. That's tough.
Come on, it's a lot more Quentins than Brendan. Schwab's. How you say his last name?
I think Brendan is a more common name than Quentin.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
And then really people call you Rampage, which is really unique.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Holy shit. I'm so glad I saved that clip. I'm so glad I didn't watch the rest of it. I'm so glad. You know what? I'm honestly so glad I didn't watch that clip before. Oh my god. There was a bit in it, right? Where for one moment there was like 3 conversations happening. There was this conversation that Rampage was having with Chin. There was a conversation that Teddy Soon was having with Brendan. And there was another conversation that was happening that in the background. I don't know. There was like 3 happening altogether. Holy shit. And then there was Adam 22 exactly looking like he's ready to Uber to the airport, or just like trying not to laugh. He didn't want to get he knows how awkward it was and how tense Brendan was getting because he was starting to do that thing. Look at Brendan's shoulders. Look at him. He's getting tense up and pissed off. He wasn't necessarily feeling it. And then Teddy Swims was trying to take the, bless him, he was trying to change the subject. But, Rampage is Rampage, isn't it? That's a pure alpha male right there. He was just dogging on his name. Schwab. Nah, he was being a prick. He didn't need to do that, man. Oh my god, man. Oh my god. Schwab. Oh, that was fucking brilliant. That was really fucking good. I'm so glad I saved that, man. I'm so glad. And then the other one to talk about quickly is the one with the alternative angles. Where's that one? I want to see that one. Somebody clipped it and put some alternate angles on it and zoomed in a little bit. I think that might be a good watch to just rewatch again, because that was absolutely too good to be true, man. Oh my god, that was incredible to watch. Yeah, so yeah, let's see this with some extra zooms. Let's see how this plays out. What's your name? Why doesn't he know his name? When they were in the Contender Series together, that whole reality TV show, they're clearly like friendly enough where Brendan can text him quite regularly to get him on the show and stuff. Like, why doesn't he know how to pronounce his name? Like, legitimately, like, it sounds like it's the first time he heard of his surname or something, that he always called him Brendan or Brandon or something. Like, what's going on here? What are we doing here? I don't know. Anyway, let's go. Extra zooms. Big up the Fighting the Kids subreddit for putting this together.
I think it's growing.
Yeah.
You know what he's about, right?
Yeah.
You want to get your own team one day?
That'd be fun.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, because you're involved with it, right?
Yeah. I would love for you to have your own team and my team.
That'd be
shit
cool.
out of your team.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I'd say after you beat them, eat their asses.
See, Rampage ain't shit, is it?
Hey, yeah, fuck no, fuck that. When it comes to that, I'm competitive when it comes to that shit.
I love that, man.
If Mr. Swab get his own team, I want.
Swab.
Did I say it wrong?
Schwab.
Fuck, I'm drunk. Schwab.
No,
Schwab.
Can I tell you something? He has a very unusual name.
Yeah, it is. Especially when it's
Oh!
off
He's
the
all
rope, he hit
older.
him too.
It's Schwab.
Schwab.
Fuck that.
Look at all the stormtroopers.
So, Charles, you think you ever get back to fighting?
No. Chin, what y'all call him?
Hell no,
Brendan?
he making too much money to think about.
Yeah,
fighting.
never.
Brendan, yeah.
Never.
Big
I'm just
Brown.
calling him Brendan.
Big Brown.
You've been
too?
doing that your whole life?
What?
Because
Just
his last
fighting?
name
No,
is
hell.
harder to say.
I've been
Big
out
Brown's
of my
like a-
second.
I only
got
So
Sorry.
when you first got started, was that like something you did your whole life? Up
No,
until
fuck
then?
no. I didn't grow up fighting at all. I grew up playing football and being a goofball. Said ball
How you
twice.
say his last
So
name?
then how do you end up using?
Schwab.
Schwab.
I'm sure I could look that up. Or ask
Just
you later.
natural. It's just something I
Schwab.
fell into, unfortunately.
Falling into fighting is just
Schwab.
I'm not like Cowboy. Cowboy.
Teddy Swims is
falling
trying.
into fighting is just not somebody.
Schwab.
Well, there's Charles. The guy who fucked up was Charles Schwab.
Yeah, that Charles Schwab.
Charles Schwab was like the financial.
Can I
dude.
tell you something, brother?
What, man?
You have a hard name.
You think?
Fuck yeah.
Yours is Quentin though. That's tough.
Come on, it's a lot more Quentins than Brendans. Schwab's. How you say his next name?
I think
Schaub's.
Brandon is a more common name than Quentin.
Yes.
You think so?
That's
Yeah.
it. And then really people call you Rampage, which is really
Adam trying to give him a lifeline there. Yo, this is proof that it's probably a good thing that Brendan doesn't do a roast. If Brendan did a roast, it will legitimately end in murder. Like somebody might get killed on that stage. Like it could be one of those Chris Benoit moments, mate. He should not do a flipping roast. He can't do a roast. There's no way he can do a roast. No way. No way. Imagine Brendan doing a roast. I'm gonna clean my glasses like him now. Oh my god, mate. What a legend. Oh my god. Oh my god. Honestly, that was proof he can't do a fucking roast. Honestly, can't do a roast. Oh, Jesus Christ. My eyes, man. They're leaking. I swear my eyes are leaking. My eyes are legitimately leaking. Oh, my days. Anyway. It's nearly been 2 hours. It's getting late in the D. I don't think I've got much more that I want to talk about, do I really here? Oh, let me see, quickly run through some last bits and bobs. What else I want to see here? Obviously this, you guys have seen this, another clip from the Friday Kid sub. This guy is definitely a flipping alky in the biggest sense of the word. Look at this, taken from the Tiger Thick Instagram. Look at that. You see this?
30 seconds to the intro, Frank Grillo. Red Sam Tripoli.
Daddy about to go to work.
You see that glass, mate? You see that glass? Look at the start. Look at the true professional. Look at the professional. It's probably kind of, it looks empty to me. It doesn't look like there's much drink in there. Maybe some water just to kind of, you know, maybe a little splash just to give you a little bit of an activation. But look at Brendan's glass. Look at his face. Look how red he is. He's got that puffiness on his cheeks of somebody that's been boozing a lot. And then look at the glass, bro. That is a heavy, heavy, heavy pour. No chaser, mate. Straight up. In there. Going right into your flipping veins. Right into your eyelids. There it goes. Right there in the glass. That is a shocking state of affairs and clearly proof that this man is definitely getting it, innit? He's definitely getting it, mate. He's definitely getting it. He loves the juice. And like I said before, it's just interesting to me. Being somebody that was relatively sober and then going all the way off the other side in your mid-30s is really weird for me personally, but maybe it's not that weird. Who knows? But yeah, big up him drinking himself into a stupor so late in life, mate. It's absolutely crazy to think that, to be honest. But hey, what can you do? But yeah, man, my G's, it's been 2 hours already. What can I say here? It's been fun. I've had a good time. Hope you've had a good time as well. If you've enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Please smash the like button for me. I'll be greatly appreciated. I'd love if you could smash the like button for me. Please smash that like button for me. And apart from that, I don't know. Not more to say really, innit? I guess see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in. It's been fun. We had a good time, I feel like, for the most part. And yeah, check me out later, brother. Check me out later. And yeah, enjoy your Monday. Hopefully you guys are going to work or you're going to do your education bits and bobs, whatever you're going to do. Hopefully you enjoy all that stuff. That would be nice. What else you guys are doing? I don't know. Whatever you're doing in a week, do it well, do it clean, do it honest. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you again in the middle of the week. Probably do another stream again. And yeah, man, just keep an eye out on the channel. All the good stuff coming out. I've got a podcast premiering hopefully in the evening when I get that all set up and done, so keep an eye out for that. Got a DJ live stream that I'll be doing on Thursday that I'll upload later and give you the times on that one also, and some other bits and bobs coming forward in the future. But apart from that, all I ask of you guys is just to make sure you like the stream, like the stream. Make sure you share it with your lovely friends and family, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon, innit? Take care, my friends. Big up everybody in the chat as well, actually. I've got to shout everybody in the chat, even though my chat keeps flipping going weird and not. Why does it keep doing this? Every time why does it stop? Maybe I have to do something. I've got to change some settings. It keeps stopping. But anyway, regardless, big up everybody in the chat. Big up Good Robot. Big up Koila, Uche, Brian. Big up Nerdscape. Who else is here? Big up Michael Jamal. Big up Algorithm. Big up Josie Masters. Big up, oh, too many people here to mention, but you're all here. You know who you are. Big up every single one of you. I really do enjoy your company. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Take care, be safe, and peace.